Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
I'm not a camel.
I love that the sound effects start as soon as we start. Perfect timing, everybody. Welcome back for lunch. I've got an update for you. More information than you want, but it's what you deserve. We found the sewer line in a little trench out there. We found it with the mini excavator. You do not want to find a sewer line with a mini excavator. Let me just say that is not the best tool to locate such a sensitive object as a sewer line, which crumbles under the force of that little bucket. But we found it, and now we know where it's broken. It's right where we found it. So guess what we get to do? Yeah, it's going to be up and running in no time. As opposed to right now, where the facilities, if you do come and visit, the facilities for our home are exterior, near the bushes than they typically would be in a regular home. So that's awesome. So lunch break was fun that way, but at least we know where that is. Bad consequences. If I could just tell you, it broke the pipe, Abby. We bucket right through the sewer line. It's like 2 feet deep. It's 2 feet deep, and it's probably 20 feet from where we were digging. We dug down, and we finally hit a pipe where we thought it was, and it was running the wrong direction. Like we dug down, we dug a trench. Like if from me to you, we dug a trench that way. We were expecting the pipe to go across that trench. We dug down and finally found one that ran along that trench. We're like, well, we found it. It's like 6 feet deep. It's below the water level, but we found it. And just groundwater level, not sewage.
I'm not a camel.
And so we're like, okay. And then we start digging out the rest of it, and then we found the actual sewer line. We have no idea what this pipe is. We have no idea what it is. It's not on any of the maps. It's not on any of the plans. There's just a pipe that runs under the house. We think there might have been an old general store next to us years and years ago. We're talking 1800s. And anyway, it's gone. Anyway, so now we've got people running the store to get the fittings we need to cut things off and reattach. And the good news is, because it's so much higher, we don't have to dig all the rest of the trench 6 feet deep. So that's fantastic news. Anyway, so now you have to be a camel, says Shells. Yes, I do. That is exactly the situation we're in. So this half of the live stream is brought to you by Depends. So, oh man, it's good fun. It's awesome. Love it. The kids are all out there throwing cement in the trailer and stuff. We're having a grand old time. This will be fixed actually in about 45 minutes. So no issues there. But if you see me take a quick break, you might know why. That might be the case. I like to, we have, oh my goodness. If we back up to the very beginning, let me just say, we are in for a special treat today. We are in for something that we have never seen thus far in all of the recovery addict history, because Ivan Victor has won the internet, which I think it's only appropriate that we deem him the internet czar at this point, and he has big plans for the internet, and it may or may not coincide with what you have plans for the internet. So it's going to be exciting. But yes, oh snap, me of all people owns the internet. Watch out. It's going to be fun. Ivan, thank you so much for being first in chat. Ivan is awesome. Good friend of the program. Connect a lot offline with him as well. Just a great guy. And so appreciative for him being part of this community, as well as all the offline content as well. So, Ivan, thank you very much for being here. Congratulations. You have won the internet. It is yours. We'll just box it up and email it to you. We had a pretty thorough roll call this morning, so if we've got anyone here new that that I missed, let me know. Let's see, March 13, Lee, TW, KQD are back again here. Denise, Christy Busby, O-Town Chill Shells, Kevin, Lil Bit, Michelle Phillips, Dallas Born Boston Bred, I think I see you, Tracy Anzar, Ritz, Victoria SKH in South Carolina, good morning, always on go, MCAT, Myra's here, Danny Austin, G. Smith, DSN, the Dutch Girl, hello, welcome. See Tracy, MCAT, Rando, O-Town Chill Shells, 6 Volt Bus, Jen Hoff, Michelle Phillips, Jonathan Davenport, Golden Girl, Pampered Glamper is here, Red Pen, Horse Sheet and Bananas, Dutch Girl, always on go, I think Manon is here, welcome. Allô tout le monde. I'm pretty sure that is French. I'm pretty sure. But I don't know what it means. I might have said something very bad. I doubt it. I don't think you would have put very bad words in chat, but welcome. Christine Hathaway Cooley, welcome. Good to have you here. Let's see, CG in Texas. Ivan, I did see you own the internet, Ivan. 100%. I'm actually thinking, Ivan, and maybe now that you've won the internet, you'd be a big fan of this. But I'm thinking that the coin, the Recover Addict coin that we make, might have to be like available to those who own the internet, who have won the internet. I think that should be the privilege that comes with owning the internet, is you can have a coin to commemorate the occasion and show it off. It's just something like this one with just like a cool coin like that might, I turned the focus off, but just a little metal coin, a challenge coin type thing. That's my idea. Anyway, whose laugh is cackle? Always on go. That is also from the Jensen trial, Mark Jensen trial, where I think it's the defense attorney, something funny happened and she just let out a cackle that was immortalized forever. I'm getting texts from let's see here, about the sewer line. Let's see.
Alex stole it.
Yes, she's. I've got some advice from Ven about how to locate the sewer line, but little does she know, Ven, we just found the sewer line. We found it with the mini excavator, and now we're running to get the parts to fix it. So yes, it broke. It's broken. We have a 2-foot wide gap in our sewer line, which is awesome. Ryan K, welcome. Good to have you here. My Dog Murray as well. KX Star, hello again. Let's see, Debbie, Red Pen, MCAT. I thought they were installing fiber optics for your internet. They are, but not yet. They actually sent me another letter telling me to sign up again. I signed up before they sent me the first letter. This is the second one telling me that it's available, but they still haven't built it. My Dog Murray, the courthouse does go away when you're not a member, but if you come back, you pick up right where you left off. So make sure your settings turned on to receive gift memberships. You never know. This particular community is quite generous when it comes to memberships. I'm sure there will be a courthouse by your name in no time. Samantha Terry here. Morton Anderson put ketchup on brain mashed potatoes. Oh man, yuck. Rando, Ivan. Actually, ketchup on potatoes isn't that bad. I like them on hash browns. I like them on. I couldn't do baked potatoes or mashed potatoes for some reason. You change the consistency and it just doesn't work. Susie, Ready Freddy, GG, Melmac, Natural Empress, Bella, Tabitha, Miss Winters, G. Smith, TW, Georgia Culture. Let's see, Portland Trailblazers TV. I think that's about it. Let's see. I think that's everybody. And Samantha just gifted a membership. I went to Bernard G. Congratulations, Bernard. And thank you once again, Samantha. A huge supporter of the program. Very much appreciate you. D. Jojo, hello. Laura K. Unpopular opinion, I don't eat ketchup. Can't handle tomato paste on my food. It is unpopular. But we'll let you have it. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, even if it's wrong. Let's see. Thal, did you check the fundraiser? I haven't. I should. This morning we did we shared a GoFundMe from a family down in Texas that actually Thomas Weatherwatch ran into, and the gentleman who was delivering the food, who was delivering the order that Thomas had made, did a phenomenal job. It just went above and beyond. It was a difficult order. It had him running all over the place trying to fill the order and everything. And Weatherwatch, being the great guy he does, he gave him a good tip for just being amazing and doing a good job. And it was much more than the gentleman had expected, and it made him emotional. And he thanked him profusely, and then contacted him again afterwards and just said, "Hey, thank you. That." I just wanted to thank you and tell you, that means a lot to me. There's a lot going on.
Bring the jury.
And Weatherwatch, Thomas, being the amazing guy he is, instead of saying, "Yeah, it's fine, no problem, just go away," he says, "Tell me about it. What's happening?" And found out that the family had recently had incurred some very significant medical bills with some emergency dental surgery for their daughter, and had almost over $9,000 outstanding balance that he was working this second job trying to pay off. And so he encouraged them to make a GoFundMe, even though they were, just going to, be very private about it and just keep, plugging away until they could get this big bill gone. And instead he said, "Make a GoFundMe and we'll share it." And we did, and you guys have been amazing. So let me do a quick check. I have not seen where we're at. It was at $25 when we started this morning. So 1,460. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Oh my goodness. Thank you, all of you, for donating, and some of you very huge donations. You guys are amazing. Thank you for this family. That is awesome. This is how you make the world a better place. Honestly, helping people when they need help. Especially this particular gentleman wasn't asking for help. Was not begging. He was just working his butt off and didn't. He resisted this, and we had to Thomas had to twist his arm to get him to do this. But that's awesome. Thank you guys. You're amazing. Let's see. MCAT just gifted a membership, and it went to Ray Quinn. Congratulations, Ray, and Tabitha. The courthouse looks good in teal. It sure does. Congratulations on your second month, Tabitha. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, we've got one more witness. I forgot about this one. That's a tag. I forgot about that command. 6,280 subscribers to the channel. Thank you. Thank you. All 6,280 of you. That's amazing. 2 donations of $500. Just amazing. You guys are extremely generous. Thank you. Can you repost the link my employees want to continue to donate? Carl, I definitely can. Give me just 1 second. Let me, let's see. Copy. Let's see if I can do this here. Oh, I hear myself. That's funny. And paste. I think that's it. I think that's it right there on the bottom of the screen. I'm not sure why it abbreviates it like that, but let me know if that does not work. Thank you very much.
Murdaugh stole it.
Do you think closing will start today after defense arrest? Great question, Natural Empress. I don't think it will, because first we've got a couple things happening. First of all, after defense rests, we're going to go back to the state, and they have an opportunity for rebuttal witnesses. This will most likely be an expert witness that rebuts the testimony of the expert witness the defense had. So it's going to be somebody, probably about the gunshot, because that's really what they focused on. Might be something about cell phone, but I don't know. We could have both. They could have some cell phone rebuttal and some gunshot rebuttal. But either way, we're going to have 1 or 2, maybe more, rebuttal witnesses. I don't think it will take very long, because by the end of day tomorrow, they should be done. And then usually what happens is the judge will have jury instructions. He might even talk to the lawyers today about preparing, jury instructions, what he'd like us to, or what they'd like him to tell the jury. And there's some jury instructions that come before the closing arguments, and then there's the jury charge immediately afterwards. But closing arguments, he says he's not going to set time limits on. He doesn't like doing that. So those might be a little lengthy, but it should be fun. I feel a sneeze coming on. For those that don't know, North Carolina is entirely in bloom, and it's trying to kill me with pollen. The fields that have not been plowed, they grow this little tiny weed that right now is blooming purple. And there's also, I think the Bradford pears are out in like bright white flowers and everything. Just everything blooms, even in the winter here in North Carolina. It looks like Samantha Terry just gifted another membership, which, let's see, which went to Grumpy Cat and Charlie Peterson. If I can get it to work right, gifted a membership as well, which went to Cough Hiccup. So thank you very much, Samantha and Charlie. I appreciate that, and congratulations to those who received the gift memberships. Ivan's like, what did you miss? I won the internet. That's what you missed. Does anyone know the name of the last witness? Oh, great question, Elizabeth. I did not pin it. I had the GoFundMe up there pinned, and so I do not remember. We'd have to go back and listen to the intro, I think. And the field trip, Beck. Yes, the field trip's coming up. The jury gets a field trip. We don't know if he agreed to Poot splitting the closing, right? I believe he said no. He said, I'm not inclined. He's going to listen to some arguments, so that might come today. We'll hear about that, or maybe comes tomorrow. But it sounds like they're not going to split the closing. Let's see. Can you fix my unstable internet since you own it? This is the flip side, Ivan. But he has said that that tech support is basically a black hole, and so any calls for help may go unanswered. Ready Freddy GG gifted a membership as well. Thank you, Ready Freddy, for that. Appreciate your generous donation, and it went to Pampered Glamper. Congratulations on the membership, courtesy of Ready Freddy GG. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Okay, when court starts up here in seconds, really, it should start any minute now. We've got one more witness for the defense, and this is probably going to be another expert witness, and then they're going to rest. And it should be a short witness, so they're going to rest before the end of the day today. So maybe we'll even start rebuttal today, which would be just awesome. Let's see, nothing. Let me make sure audio's going here. It's working. Reset. Turn the volume up. There we go. Okay. How can they decide if they want to take the field trip or not if they're not allowed to talk to each other? Carolina girl, great question. They're not allowed to decide. The judge said, I'm not going to give it to them. If one side, meaning prosecution or defense, asks for it, they get it. So if the state had said, I want it, and the defense said no, they would have gone. But in this case, it was vice versa. The defense said, we'd like to take him there. They're only going to show him the kennels, apparently, which seems weird. Why would he not also show them the house? I guess it wasn't really the scene of the crime, but it's been such an important part of this crime scene on the same property. Why not show them both? So maybe we'll get some clarification on that as we go on here, because they should not be talking to each other about this case. I have not watched the Netflix special. I'm waiting till after this is over to sort of delve into those. Is prosecution up for Cross? No, Cross is done. A new witness up for the defense. A short witness, like a 12-year-old, 5'2" witness. I think that's what we have. Jonathan Davenport. Charlie, your love is showing strong. Charlie's amazing. He's a really good guy. Been around for a long time here on the channel. One of the OGs, I think. MCAT says, excited to be here to watch this channel grow. Thanks, RA. And all in chat for making workdays a bit more bearable. Thank you, MCAT. Appreciate it. You guys are fantastic. This is the best place on the internet, and it's because of you guys. Netflix special is more about the boat crash. I had a taste for pot pies, so I popped one in the oven. Little miss, that sounds delicious. Love pot pies. I wonder if Poot asked to fire a gun at the kennel with defense in the house if they'd allow it. I was thinking about that. Let's have the defense stand up there in the house, run the AC, and whip out. Take all the guns back down to Moselle. Take the shotguns, all the shotguns, take the blackouts, and let's fire a few rounds off. Maybe shoot some watermelons. Just make a day of it, really. Let's see. Yes, all new members, remember to type !seat in chat to find your seats. The Murdaugh podcasts are amazing. Highly recommended. I have enjoyed some of the podcasts. The Murdaugh Murder podcast. They seem pretty well done. Obviously, they pretty much have made a decision as far as guilt and innocence goes. On that, it's not presented.
All rise and come to order. Quiet.
Yeah, you can't finish your conversation. It's
All rise.
somebody hadn't stood up. Somebody hadn't stood up.
Be seated.
The bailiff. This is his moment to shine, and he takes it seriously. Christy Busby, yes, he got a charge for taking a book, a John Grisham book, into or trying to take it into jail. The bailiffs found it and confiscated it and charged him with a misdemeanor for contraband. We believe it's the book that Buster tried to pass forward. The charge, the incident actually happened quite a while ago.
Bring the jury.
Several weeks ago, but the charge just barely came down now, which is sort of like insult to injury. Bring the jury. Ivan, everyone who hits like gets a free shot at this store. Ivan's liquor store is going to be a hopping place here. Let's see, it was about the boat crash, providing insight on how the town views the Murdaughs. That might have been why Maggie wasn't a big fan of Moselle. She liked to be at Edisto instead, and maybe it was because of, since the boat crash, there were some hard feelings. There was
Alex stole it.
People that were...
Recovery addict, you need to let the court know that I am leaving for Mexico on Thursday. I need a verdict, smiling face with sunglasses. Gavel.
Tish, leaving Thursday. Oh, man. I'm not sure, because you've got to realize that the jury has not had any notes, Tish. They've got nothing. It's all in their heads. So unless they have completely made up their minds, they all get in there, do a straw poll, and lo and behold, it's unanimous. Thursday's fast. I mean, it's not super fast, but that's basically, I think come Thursday we'll only have maybe 24 hours worth of deliberations. So we'll see. I do hope you enjoy Mexico.
Very good. Thank you. Madam Forelady, how's the jury?
Oh, you guys can't see it, can you? Is that better?
Very good. Thank you. Your next witness.
How's the jury? They're
Your Honor,
doing...
defense calls John Marvin Murdaugh.
John Marvin Murdaugh. Wow. We get the brother. The brother's up. He's been he's been here pretty much every day. I believe his attorney's with him today. I probably should have watched that on the stand. Brought his own water. Doing a sport blazer. No tie as well.
Raise your right. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
So he swore to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, where the other one just swore to tell the truth, which is interesting.
Just that microphone.
John Marvin Murdaugh.
Oh, man.
Murdaugh.
They sound very similar. You can hear the similarities in their voice.
Mr. Murdaugh, will you tell the jury just briefly some background information? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yes, sir. So I was born in Columbia, grew up in Hampton, attended public schools from first grade through high school, graduated Wade Hampton, went to the University of South Carolina, got a degree in criminal justice, and I'm now self-employed. I've opened some companies in the heavy equipment business.
What's the name of your company?
Well, the main company is Murdaugh Rental Center, but I've got Murdaugh Kubota, Murdaugh Equipment LLC. So generally speaking, I'm in the construction equipment, agricultural tractors and implements.
So if you need to dig a hole and hide something, he's the guy to contact.
And do you have offices, locations, multiple locations?
I have two, one in Hampton and one in Okatee, Bluffton area.
Do you have any specials today for people who are watching?
Are you related to the defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh?
I am. I'm his brother.
Do you have any other brothers?
I do. Randy Murdaugh is my brother.
And do you have a sister?
I do. Lynn.
All right.
Both are here.
And and your parents are whom?
Randolph and Libby Murdaugh.
Are you the only son of the three that didn't go to law school?
I am, and I'm quite proud of it.
It's like I'm the only honest one among the bunch. I don't know what he meant by
Tell
that.
the jury generally about the Murdaugh family, your family in this area.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're probably like most families, or a lot of families, we're very close. I mean, the siblings, we stay in touch. We do holidays together. You try to interact and keep your family core together. I mean, we're just, a normal family doing normal family things.
Right. Your parents, and we've heard about your father, Randolph Murdaugh, who died on June the 10th, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then your mother's Miss Libby?
She is.
And she's still alive, correct?
She is. In fact, yesterday was her birthday.
And you went by to see her, I understand.
I did, with my kids.
Was it after 9 p.m.?
In the spring of 2021, were they both alive? Was your dad alive?
Yes, sir.
And what was his health in the spring of 2021?
Well, he had been battling cancer, and not just cancer. I'll use that term loosely. He had multiple forms of cancer, but he had been battling cancer, had health issues. He had been through heart surgeries. Just overall, his health was not good. Just
Trying to get the
in and out of
videos
hospitals.
synced up, but we do have Murdaugh family
age
and all the
and
cameras.
diseases were catching up to him.
And would you check in on your mom and dad any chance you've got?
I would. So I didn't tell you all this, but so I don't live in Hampton. My wife and family and I, we live down in Beaufort, or just outside of Beaufort. And so my drive is about an hour's drive to do it. So I didn't visit as often as Randy and Alec because they were in Hampton. But absolutely, anytime I had the opportunity to work in Hampton at my office, I would always take time to stop by. And then sometimes I would just wanted to go see my mom.
And was it routine for one? So either your brothers who lived in Hampton to stop by and check on them routinely?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I don't know every time they went because I wasn't there, but I feel confident that they visited more just because of the proximity. It's just an easier visit.
So let's talk about proximity. Your brother Randy, where does he live?
He lives in Hampton, in town.
And then your sister Lynn, where does she live?
She lives in Somerville.
Okay. And then Alec, where did he live in the spring of 2021?
Well, I think in the spring of 21, he was living in Moselle. I think all of them were.
Okay. And is Moselle close to Alameda?
Well, it's further than Randy's house, but much closer than mine.
Right. And is that in your mother's house? I'm saying Alameda, but is Alameda a town? Or what
No,
is
Alameda's correct. That's the
property
the
name.
location. That's the property name, if you will, the intersection name. I think that's a general.
And just tell the jury where that's located.
It would be just east of Varnville, maybe 2 or 3 miles outside of the town limits.
Is it basically at the intersection of, I don't know, what's that mean?
Intersection of 278 and Highway 68 that would one goes to Ridgeland and one goes to Yemassee.
Okay. And would Alec visit your mom and dad frequently in the spring of 2021, to your knowledge?
Oh, absolutely.
And we'll get to more of that. I want to talk about Paul. How well did you know Paul?
I knew Paul very well. Excuse me, I'm going to have a hard time talking about Paul because we had a very special relationship. But I knew him very well. And I'll do my best to answer any questions about him.
Well, did he have a nickname?
He did. They called him Little Rooster.
And
sure wasn't Paul
did he call him anything else?
Well, I mean, he'd been called Little Rooster, had been called, as you heard, Paw. I mean, that's what my family, my kids called him.
What did you call him?
Well, it depends on where we were and what we were doing. When we were, excuse me, when we were doing something fun and a social event, I would refer to him as Paw. Now, y'all haven't heard this yet, but he worked for me. So when he worked for me, it was Paul, or it was Paul Terry, because I was trying to be, a little more authoritative.
Right. Who else called him Paw?
Most of all the family. And that's not, that's not a name that was said at all times, but when we're having fun, kids would say it, my wife would say it. It was just a name that was used in fun times.
You wouldn't use it every time.
Normal times.
You're talking about him like Alex
and
did.
you mentioned Paul worked for you. When did he work for you?
That's. I thought you were going to ask that, and unfortunately, I don't know. He's worked for me maybe prior to June of 21. He was working, or he was working then. I think he worked the 2 summers prior to that. And it was just summer work. I mean, it would only last a month or so, a month and a half.
And was he working for you in June of 2021?
He was.
And what was he doing for you?
Anything I asked him to do.
Where was he working?
He was working at my Bluffton Oakety store. He would do anything from power wash equipment or deliver new tractors that were being sold, talk to customers, help customers load and unload rental equipment. He did, as you heard someone testify, that boy would work. And so whatever was asked of him, he would do.
Was he on the phone the whole time, or did he actually work?
Not at work, he was not. Well, not while I was there.
Oh, right. Was he a good worker?
He was an excellent worker.
Did you spend time with Paul? Let me back up. Do you have a place where you hunt? You have a property?
I do.
Do you have a name for that property?
We call it Greenfield.
And would Paul and Buster come out to Greenfield to hunt?
They would.
Would
Absolutely.
Let me just back up. What was the relationship between Alec, Paul, and Buster?
Oh, it was a great relationship. Anything that the boys were doing, Alec wanted to do, and the boys always came first to him. And some of y'all may have been on dove hunts before, but I have a very small field, and I've got 10 stands in the field, and before the hunt, I have it organized where I know who's sitting where. Well, I have Alec. He says, well, can the boys come? Well, of course they can come. So now I've got to rearrange for that. Or if they said they were coming and the boys backed out, Alec always backed out. I was thinking about this. To this day, I don't believe he has ever come hunting with me since his boys have been old enough to hunt without his boys. It's always with the boys.
Did he do other things with them?
Yeah, did sporting events, football games, baseball games.
Was he close with his sons?
Very close.
Right. And how about Maggie? What did you observe of his relationship with Maggie?
It was a great relationship. I mean, all marriages, I'm sure, have hiccups here and there, but I'm telling you, it was a good marriage. In coming here, I was trying to think of ways to describe it. My wife and I and Alec and Maggie, we went to a concert together. It was the Darius Rucker concert. And of course, we're sitting in there. Alec and Maggie are sitting just below us. And I had just gone, and I hope I can say this in court, I'd just gone and bought one of those $15 beers. And I was back in my seat, and the song's playing, and my wife taps me, and Alec and Maggie are holding hands and swaying together. And she's like, why aren't you holding my hand? And so my $15 beer got put down. They had a great relationship. I mean, that's just one of many. Football games, they would put out a tailgate spread. They would welcome the kids, family, friends. It was just a wonderful
And did they do a lot of family things together with Paul and Buster and Paul and Buster's friends?
Yes, they did. You know, I knew of trips that they would take, family trips, you know, vacations. They had a house at Edisto that y'all have heard about, and they would have, you know, they would always have friends come over, particularly the boys' friends.
There's been some discussion during this case during this trial about Paul leaving guns and stuff around. Did you ever experience that?
I did.
And tell the jury a little bit about your experience.
Well, you know, I've heard the testimony about it, and it's accurate. I mean, I could tell you all 100 stories of him leaving things, but he was notorious. He would come stay with us at our house. He would leave. Liz would have all of his clothes washed, and you know, he just left and didn't care about where his clothes were. In fact, Paul came duck hunting with me one time, and at Greenfield, and I smile fondly on this when I think back on all this. So we had a great duck hunt. I think there were 3 of us in the blind. Great duck hunt. We picked up all the birds, decoys, and we left, and we go back up and have a nice breakfast. You know, doing all the post hunt, all the fun things that you do. Well, I went back hunting, I don't know, it was probably a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks later, and his hunting gear is still in the blind. I mean, I had to smile when I saw it. I was like, that's Paul.
Right. Did,
DH.
I want to ask you a little bit about riding property. I mean, you ride your property down at Greenfield?
I haven't followed this case. I know it's a retrial, but I haven't.
Riding in
what? Like checking on the property?
I'm not a cat.
Oh, you mean like just riding around joyriding or checking feeders or?
Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And do you always carry a gun when you're doing that?
I don't.
And have you ridden property like at your dad's place with your dad and maybe Alec or others? I mean, is that a frequent occurrence?
I would say almost never when I rode the property with my dad.
Almost never carry a gun?
Almost never would we carry a gun. We would just joyride. Now, if it were late in the afternoon and we were considering maybe getting in a deer stand, you know, at the last minute, possibly. But typically, with my dad and us, we didn't carry a gun then.
Right. Speaking of your dad, what was, you recall what was going on with his health the weekend, the Saturday, Sunday, before June the 7th, so I guess would start, Friday would be the 4th, Saturday would be the 5th, Sunday would be the 6th.
Right. So he was actually in the hospital, I believe, in Columbia that weekend. And I think he got out of the hospital on Sunday. Okay,
and did you pick him up? Your brother picked him up? You know who picked him up?
I did not. I didn't. I may have been out of town. I can't recall. I've heard the testimony about it. I did not pick him up.
Did you end up taking your father to the doctor on that Monday, June the 7th?
I did.
And where did you take him?
I took him to Savannah.
And
to his, what I would call his normal doctor.
Okay.
I think Columbia was maybe he had to go up there for some different things or another. I'm not sure.
And was he having some breathing issues on
he was having
Monday?
major breathing issues.
And when you went to the doctor on Monday, June the 7th, was there a decision made to admit him to the hospital?
It was. So when I took him, we were only going to a doctor's appointment. We were not going to the hospital. It was just me taking him to a doctor's appointment to try to find out what the breathing issues were, maybe some type of a treatment or medication or something to help him. While we were there, not as soon as the doctor saw him, but when the doctor saw him and went through some things, he immediately told both of us that he had to be in the hospital, that he was not getting the oxygen that he needed.
And when was he admitted on that Monday?
He was.
And what was, as you understood it, the prognosis when he was put back in the hospital on Monday the 8th, I mean the 7th.
On Monday, the 7th, yes. So my understanding was the doctor that we were seeing, or that he was seeing, had some really strong beliefs that the cancer that he had was not causing the breathing obstructions, that it very likely could be pneumonia. And he told us, he said, if it's the cancer, that's the worst, but if it's pneumonia like I think it is, I think we've got some treatment options.
So what was there hope on June the 7th?
Absolutely. When he told me that, I mean, well, first of all, when he said he had to go into hospital, it scared me. You know, obviously it scares you when a doctor tells you immediately have to check in. But yes, him explaining that he was optimistic that it was going to be pneumonia and that there would be a breathing treatment to help it, I felt pretty good.
Now, in evidence, and I'm not going to read it again, but did you and your brother send out emails, text messages to family members giving them an update?
We did.
And that was on the 7th?
That was on the 7th.
And in the update, did you explain the doctor believed it was pneumonia?
Yes, I gave a basic summary of what I was told by the doctor, what I believed it to be. I think Randy and I had a few minutes to talk, and he typed up another email just to make sure that everybody was in the loop.
Okay. And
I'm sorry, not an email, a text message.
Text message.
Sorry.
Okay. And did the diagnosis and the prognosis subsequently change on your dad?
It did.
It did. When was that?
Well, so on Tuesday afternoon, we're back out at we're back at Moselle, and, you know, we still hadn't heard much. I mean, all this other stuff going on, it just, as you can imagine, it's so much going on. Randy called me and told me they had done everything that they could do, and that he would be coming home in an ambulance under hospice care.
And did he die on June the 10th?
He died, I think, 2 days later.
Take your time.
That's all right. That's all right.
Going back to taking your dad to the doctor and then checking him in the hospital, there's some vehicles being switched around a little bit, and we'll get to, you know, that. But can you explain to the jury how all that transportation went to get to your dad to the hospital? Well, doctor.
You're talking about on that Monday for me to get him?
On June, June the 7th.
It's a little bit complicated, but I'll do my best to explain it. So Randy, on Monday morning, Dad had been in the hospital Sunday, got out Sunday, knew that he needed to be seen by his regular doctor, but did not have an appointment. And so Randy was doing everything he could to get him in as early as he could on that Monday, and just asked me, he says, if I get the appointment, can you take him? And I said, absolutely, I'd be delighted to. A little while later, an hour or two, I don't know, it was still that morning, Randy calls me and says, okay, they have an opening for him, but he has to get there right away. So Hampton is, an hour and a half from Savannah, hour and a half. He said, you don't have time to drive to Hampton to get him. I will meet you in Ridgeland, about halfway, which is not far from my house. And then you just take him, and I'll go back. He had some time-sensitive things to work on. So we met at Palmetto Co-op in Ridgeland. I got in my mom's car with my dad. Randy got in my truck and drove it back to Alameda, where Randy had come to pick up my dad. So Randy's truck's back at Mom and Dad's house. So I drive Dad to Savannah in my mom's car, go through what we just talked about, the doctor's appointment, getting checked in. And back then COVID was still going on, and there were several restrictions. They wouldn't let me go back with my dad at that time. So I was going to be driving home, and now I'm stuck in my mom's car. So I know Paul was working, and I guess it was around 5 or so, and that's when we closed. I called Paul and said, Paul, listen, I need you to, if you would, drive my mom's car back to Alameda, pick up my truck and bring it to work the next morning. And then just leave he was driving like a farm truck that day. I said, leave it and I'll drive it and we'll just swap back the next morning. And so that's how our cars got swapped.
All right, so when you got back on the evening of the 7th, did you see Paul?
I did.
And where did you see him?
At my house.
And he got into your mom's
into my mom's
sedan
car
and drove to Alameda.
And drove it to Alameda, and then got in my truck and drove it to Moselle.
Okay. And you said the farm truck was at your house. Do you remember where Paul's truck was?
Paul's normal truck was in the shop being worked on.
Was that Jimmy Butler's?
It was a shop in Varnville, Jimmy Butler's, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now, when you last saw Paul, was he just as normal as you see him every day, or was?
Oh, absolutely. He was playing with my kids in the yard, waiting on me to get there. In fact, that particular day, he was pretty dirty. So whatever he had been doing back at work had him pretty dirty. But he was playing with the kids in the yard, being Paul.
Is that the last time you saw him?
That is the last time I saw him.
When did you learn that, and how did you learn that Maggie and Paul were murdered on the night of June the 7th?
Well, Alec called me, and Liz and I, we have 3 younger kids. I mean, our youngest is 8 now, so it would have been 6 at the time, and so we don't have a lot of free time to ourselves. But that night we were watching television,
Well, let me back up. Had Alec called you earlier in the night when he was on his way to?
Oh, yes, sir.
His mom's?
Yes, sir.
And we got phone records of that. What do you recall of that conversation?
He called, just checking on me. Just said, I saw the news about Dad. Things look good. It was a brief conversation, and I hate to say it, but I kind of said, listen, man, Liz and I finally have a few minutes. Can we talk tomorrow? We're watching a movie.
And what was his demeanor when you spoke with him on the evening of the 7th?
Same as always, just normal.
And then later on that night, you got another phone call from him?
And I got when you asked the question, how did I learn? Yes, Alec called me and just absolutely hysterical. As soon as I heard his voice, I knew something bad was going on. Didn't know what. And I'm in my pajamas. He said, something bad has really happened. I don't know what his exact words, but I think he said, Maggie and Paul have been hurt really badly. Please get here as fast as you can. And, I drop what I'm doing and I go get dressed and I'm hurrying. I'm, just so many things are going through your mind. You don't know what to do. So I get dressed and I run outside and realize I don't have a car. Paul's car's out there, and it is a hunk of junk. And I mean,
this was the farm truck.
This was the farm truck, and so I knew I couldn't take my wife's car because she was taking the kids to school. And at this point, I knew something bad. I just didn't know how bad it was.
And so, did you then get in the farm truck and head to Moselle?
I did.
And what happened along the way?
Well, so along the way, I'd spoken to Randy. He asked me to try to get in touch with a close family friend and one of their law partners, Danny Henderson. I was just constantly trying to call him. I'm driving fast. I'm trying to get to Moselle. And, once I got Danny and told him that he needed to get up there, I had just a few minutes to myself, and I was crying. And somebody called me shortly after that. I don't know who it was. I can't remember. But I remember it was either Alec or Randy, I believe. And they said the sheets were being pulled over them.
You're talking about stuff that...
Did the farm truck break down?
It did.
How'd you end up getting to Moselle?
Well, so let me back up and say, so the route that from my house down in Okatee, Beaufort, takes me to Coosawhatchee, and I get on 95 to go to Yemassee and getting off and coming up that way. Well, another close family friend, his name is Greg Alexander. He is the chief of police in Yemassee. I reach out to him, and I just say, Greg, I gave him said something bad had happened. Or again, I don't know when I was told about the sheets, but I told him, I said, listen, something bad's happened. We got to get up there. When I get to Yemassee, can you please help make sure I get to Moselle? Because this truck's sputtering, and I knew it wasn't good. And he met me at Yemassee, and he fell in behind me, and we started driving until he finally passed me in Varnville. Well, go ahead.
And did he end up driving you the rest of the way?
Well, he did. So he passed me shortly before Varnville. He took a right on 63, and he was a little ways ahead of me when the truck quit on me. I called him and said, Greg, I said, come back and get me. The truck has broken down. And of course, he picked me up and took me straight on to Moselle.
Were there any guns in the farm truck that Paul had left when you got in it?
I have no idea. It was dark when I got in it. As y'all can imagine, I was frantic. I jumped in it and I took off.
Did you ever see any guns in it?
That night, never. I mean, I didn't look. I mean, it just,
right.
I wasn't looking in the back seat. I wasn't worried about anything except getting to Moselle.
Okay. Do you remember about the time you got to Moselle? What time was it, roughly? Or better yet, who was there when you got there?
Well, there were. I mean, well before I got to Moselle, or we got to Moselle, you could see the lights flashing. It was just, there were tons of people. Mostly what I would describe is first responders of some sort.
And when you pulled up, where did you go?
So we came in the main gate and came around, and they had created a small crime scene. And when we pulled up, I saw Alec, and I think before Greg even stopped the car, I jumped out and ran to him.
And what was his condition, Alex?
Oh, he was just broken. I mean, distraught. I mean, everybody was. There were a few other people there, but he just, all we did is hugged and cried. I mean, I don't even know that we talked.
How long did you stay down adjacent to the crime scene? Do you recall?
Quite some time. I have to assume that I probably was there at the 11 o'clock-ish. I don't know what time I got there, but I don't think we went back up to the house, until well after midnight, maybe 2, 3.
And when you went to the house, do you recall if any sled agents came up there?
Well, I did not see any. I heard some testimony, some came and got some clothes, but I did not see any sled agents at the house. The last officer that I remember seeing that night, or officers, were the ones that told us that we needed to leave that area, that they were going to be doing stuff with the bodies, and that we needed to go to the house.
Right. When you went into the house, were there other people in there when you got in?
There were. Most people that I knew. Some of Alec's partners, Randy's partners, family members, Lynn.
Was there food out or had food? What was it? Had anything?
Well, I didn't see any food, but I saw pots and pans, and I saw folks that were cleaning up. They were removing the pots and pans, but I never opened it and looked in it, so I presumed that it was food. They cleaned dishes. They put the pots and pans away or in the refrigerator.
Was a TV on in the house? Do you remember?
Based on what I know, I would say it is, but I can't tell you 100% that it was on. But I'd be willing to bet it was.
What do you mean when you say based on what you know?
Well, I don't think I'd ever been in that house without the TV being on if Alec and Maggie were there.
After well, did you ultimately go to Alameda that evening with Alec, Buster, and his girlfriend, Brooklyn?
We did.
Do you remember what Alec was wearing when he went to Alameda?
Not precise. I mean, I can't, he was wearing shorts and a T-shirt. I can't tell you details, but it was shorts and a T-shirt, you know, like relaxed shorts.
Do you know whether he had had a shower or not?
It appeared he had.
Okay.
I mean, his hair was not, yeah, I didn't see him in the shower, but I can tell you I think he had a shower.
I understand. So then let's move forward to the morning of the June 8th. I guess, did you get any sleep the night of June the 7th?
Very little. I don't know that I fell asleep. I've certainly laid in the bed. It just, as you can imagine, just the thoughts and things. I don't know if I slept. When I got up and started moving the next day, I certainly didn't feel like I'd slept.
What did you do the next day when you got up?
You talking about precisely or generally?
Just generally.
I got up and Alec was up. I don't think Buster and Buckland were. I told Alec that I was going over to Greenfield. My farm that I told you all about is 2 or 3 miles away, so it's very close. And I have all, you know, I have plenty of clothes over there. So I told him I was going over there to shower and put on fresh clothes, and that I would meet him at Moselle.
And did you go to Moselle?
I did, after I left Greenfield, yes, sir.
And do you remember who was there when you got to Moselle?
I was the first one there.
And what'd you do?
I just went to stay there until I knew Buster, Brooklyn, and Alec were coming. I suspected that other family members and partners, I knew others were coming, so I just kind of sat there just, you know, just in disbelief still. It's just, you know, moments of just...
Was the door to the house unlocked? Do you remember?
You know, that's a good question. I thought about it. I don't remember.
Right.
It either was unlocked or I had the code, because there's a keypad on a side door, but I can't tell you which door I went in. I don't know.
Did you eventually go down to the kennels?
I did. You know, once everyone got there, there was you know, a fair amount of activity in the house with family and law partners, Alec's law partners, Randy's law partners. You know, I just felt like I needed to go down. I needed to see for myself what had gone on and just, you know, just kind of take it in. I mean, just maybe for some type of understanding.
How long did you stay down there at the kennels?
Well, I don't know. But I will say this, before I went, I was unsure whether I was allowed to go, because I knew it was a crime scene. And so I reached out to a friend of mine in law enforcement and said, listen, I don't know who's handling the crime scene. I don't know whatever. He said, well, I'll find out and make sure that it's clear for you to go. And he said, don't go until I tell you. And he called me back a few minutes later and said he had spoken to, I believe it was Captain Ryan Neal, and had given the okay that everything was released and it was okay to go there.
And was it cleaned up?
No, Jim, it was not cleaned up.
Okay. Were there skull fragments?
Yeah, so, you know, so excuse me, this is going to be really difficult. So I could easily see where Maggie had been. You know, I saw the night before where the sheets were, and somebody had told me that who was who, and so I could see where Maggie had been, and it was grass, and, you know, they had covered it up with dirt, so there really was nothing to see where Maggie was. I walked over to the feed room, and y'all have heard the descriptions. Y'all saw it. I've never seen pictures, and I've told them before coming to this court that I was not going to see pictures. But y'all can imagine what I experienced. It had not been cleaned up. I saw blood. I saw brains. I saw pieces of skull. And when I say brains, it could just be tissue. I don't know what I was seeing. It was terrible. And for some reason, I thought it was something that I needed to do for Paul to clean it up. I felt like it was the right thing to do. I felt like I owed him, and I started cleaning. This is hard. Promise you, no mother or father or aunt or uncle should ever have to see and do what I did that day. I don't know. I'm not blaming anybody, but it's just I was just overwhelmed. I did everything I could, and I would have moments where I would stop crying for a moment, and just in disbelief. At one point, I called my brother Randy, and told him what I was doing, trying to describe what I was doing, and he immediately told me to stop doing it. It was not good for me. It was not healthy for me to be there, and I couldn't stop. I had to do it for Paul. That's just what I had to do. And I don't know, it's probably 15, 20 minutes later, Mark Ball shows up. Y'all heard Mark Ball testify. And he came and hugged me and told me it was okay to leave. Okay to leave what was left of Paul, that they would clean it up. It's the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life.
Yes, sir. What'd you do next?
Mark basically got me. I'm sure I was just a basket case, but he got me back to the house and, got me back around family and, just got back to, the support of others that were there. And there were a lot of people at the house at that point.
Do you remember when you got back to the house, at some point in time, people raising questions or bringing up the fact that Maggie's phone had not been located?
Yeah, so that were, particular the lawyers, they were all, being lawyers, they were, questioning things amongst themselves and, how could this happen, trying to figure things out. But it was brought to my attention that Maggie's phone was not there and that law enforcement had not found it. And I can't say that, in fact, I can probably say that I didn't think of it because I'm not a big phone user or a big app user or whatnot. But somebody brought to my attention and says, listen, if Buster or Alec, if they have an app on their phone, like Find My Phone or Find My Friends or an app like that, they said you very likely can find out where the phone is if the battery's not dead. And so I went to Buster and sure enough, I said, Buster, do you have this one of these apps like they're talking about? And he said, yeah, sure I do. I said, well, open it up. He opened it up and he handed me the phone and I see Maggie's name and I press it where, to activate it, and it pings Maggie's phone just out front of the property. And I was like, I hate to say it, but I said, holy shit, there it is. And I said, Buster, I'm taking your phone. I'm going to go back down to the shed and show it to law enforcement.
And who did you approach first about the phone?
Well, I don't know who it was. Presumably it was SLED agents, because keep in mind, I didn't know any of these guys with SLED. I mean, there were a couple of faces that I'd seen before, but I don't know these guys. I've come to know them, but I don't know them or didn't know them then. So I went up to a SLED agent, and presumably SLED agents, and said, hey, I've got Buster's phone here, and it's got an app on it that can find the phone, and it's showing Maggie's phone's right out here. Y'all want to let's go get it. And he said, no need. We have technology coming later today that we should be able to find it. And it blew me away that I'm sitting here showing them where Maggie's phone is, but they won't take the time to walk with me or take this phone itself. I mean, I'd give them the phone to go find it. So I walk over, I knew Duffy Stone, he was the solicitor, I knew one of his investigators. I walked over to them, said the exact same thing, and they immediately said, absolutely, let's go find this thing before the battery goes dead.
And what happened?
That we did that. Well, we started walking down the back entrance, or the kennel entrance, if you will. And as we were, and at that time, the agent was holding the phone. You know, I'm looking at it with him. And when it pings, it creates a dot or a location. And that dot jumped from right at the end of that road down the road, I don't know, maybe a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. And so we walked back, got into a car, and drove down to where it was showing the phone.
And was the phone?
And I rode with those agents, the solicitor's office agents.
Was the phone ultimately located on the side of the road?
Absolutely. We found it in a matter of minutes.
Okay. Do you remember how it was collected? I mean, were you present when it was collected?
I was. So I was on. There's a cow pasture on one side and it's wooded on the other side, and I was on the side the cow pasture zone, if you will. And I heard him say, "I got it." And so, you know, of course, I walked back beside his car, and I'm good ways from it, but I see him over there, and I think he took either some ribbon or some flagging or flagging tape, and marked the phone. And I don't think he touched it. I think he left it right where it was. Called SLED, and maybe at that time, maybe they had been communicating, but SLED had blocked off the road at this point, and one of the agents came up and picked the phone up. Okay. And I don't know which agent. Again, I didn't know him.
Did any law enforcement officer ask you if you knew the password?
Yes. So once they and I'll say this. So they did take pictures of it while it was on the ground before they touched it. They picked it up. I think they had gloves on. They picked it up, brought it back to the trunk of the car, and opened it up in power zone. And they then asked, what's the password? And of course, I didn't know it.
Did you find out the password?
I did. I called Alec, and he gave me the password. I repeated it to the agent. They put the password in and said, "It's open."
So Alec provided you the password that you passed to the agents, and it opened the phone? Is that
yes,
correct?
Sir. That's correct.
John Marvin, were you aware of a news release that was issued that morning, Tuesday, June 8th, that the public had no need to be alarmed or concerned for their safety?
Yes, sir.
Well, what was your reaction to that?
I mean, it's quite baffling. It still is. 2 people have been killed, and they're telling me that everybody's safe. That tells me that whoever's done this is in jail, and they are 100% positive. Because if they're not in jail, nobody's safe.
Right. Did you go back to the residence at Moselle after finding the phone? Did you go back up to the house?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did SLED agents come through and search it while you were present?
They did. I don't know how long I'd been back up there, but they came and we kind of talked in the playroom, or I think some have described it as the gun room. Yeah, they talked about that they needed to come in the house and search for things.
And did you escort, I think it was Agent McAllister, throughout the house?
Yes, it was Katie McAllister.
And did she tell you what she was looking for?
Initially, she says, well, the way she presented it was, there were so many people in the house. She said, listen, I don't want to just go barging in and make everybody run out of the house, but I'm going to take my badge off, my gun off, and if you would, just walk me through each room. And, particularly I'm looking for 12-gauge shotgun guns and 300 blackout and the ammunition for those calibers.
And as you're walking through the house with her, it appeared she was looking for other things besides just guns.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could tell she's looking, because she looked in spaces that guns wouldn't fit, so it makes sense that she could be looking for something else.
Such as what?
Well, I don't know.
Well, I understand, but you said spaces. Did she look in the
bathrooms
and
like
tubs?
I opened up up in the upstairs area. There's some cabinets that, a couple of them are pretty small that, she could find ammunition in there, but I don't know how you would get a gun in there.
Did she search bathrooms?
She did. Well, I took her through every room in the house.
Right.
I mean, every single room.
Did you observe her looking in sinks and toilets and?
So yes, sir. What I observed is, like the shower, for example, is it's a door. It's not an open shower. She opened the door and she looked around and, she was looking at it. She easily would have known there was no gun in it when she opened it, but it was obvious that she was looking a little deeper.
Right. What kind of guns were there at Moselle?
Well, it sounds like the guns of all kinds, rifles, shotguns. I've seen bow and arrows. I've seen crossbows. Most anything that you would hunt with.
Right. And were guns mostly in the gun room, to your knowledge, when you were over there?
Well, when I went through the house, we identified, I remember one gun in particular that was in the bedroom, a shotgun. I picked it up and said, you need to take this one. And we looked at it, and it was a 20 gauge. And she said, no, put that one back. So I put it back. So predominantly all the guns were in the gun room or playroom.
Right. I sort of an aside, briefly, do you hunt with Alec over the years?
I have.
And did he have a go-to gun, to your knowledge, that he would use?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. When's the last time you ever seen him hunt with a 12 gauge?
I'd say that when he bird hunt, he's either shooting a 20 gauge or a 28. There was a time, and please don't ask me when, but I would say it was a few years prior to this that we were turkey hunting on another piece of property down on the Savannah River. And I know he was hunting with a 12 gauge then, but I don't know whether it was his gun or somebody else's.
Did that gun have a sticker on it, do you remember?
It did. And
you remember what the sticker said?
No, I don't remember what the sticker said, but I do remember teasing Alec that when you're turkey hunting, you don't want to be seen, and, big sticker on the side of your barrel is kind of like waving a white flag to a turkey.
Did you serve as somewhat of a liaison or the point person with SLED and the family initially?
I don't know that I'd call it a liaison or a point person, but I absolutely, I had become to know Agent David Owens, and I absolutely told David, I said, listen, if you need anything from me or anybody and you can't get in touch with them, you reach out to me. I will either see to it that they call you back, I will see to it that you get the answers that you're looking for, or I will put you in touch with the person you're trying to reach. So I did make myself available.
And did Alec give, to your knowledge, carte blanche to law enforcement to search anywhere that they wished?
Oh, he did. In fact, before I was going to just do something, I knew that to be the case, but yes, he confirmed it with me. Anything they needed, anytime they needed it.
I think it might be
and
touchy-feely.
You provided consent to search the house the afternoon on the 8th on his
Attorney
behalf.
to cross on this one.
I did. And I've consented every time they've ever asked.
We'll get to that. Were you ever asked to provide consent or see if you could obtain consent for any law enforcement to search your mom's house where Alec had been the night before?
Say that to me one more time.
Did any law enforcement ask you to consent or obtain consent so that law enforcement could search Alameda, and I'm talking about on the 8th, because Alec had just been there the night before? Did anybody ask you, hey, can we go search Alameda?
No one asked anything.
Okay. if asked, would you have obtained consent for law enforcement?
I would have given them consent, and I would have taken them over there just like I did at Alec's house, and I would have helped facilitate the search to show them areas that they may not know about.
Did you remember law enforcement SLED agents coming to your Greenfield property on June the 10th?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what was that about?
I assume they coordinated it with Alec or Randy. I'm not sure who they coordinated it with, but yes, my understanding is they were coming to interview me, Randy, Alec, Buster. I think that's it. But they wanted to do interviews with all of us.
Okay. And did everyone congregate there at Greenfield?
Yes, sir. We were at Greenfield. Of course, that's we're staying there because of all this, and so it keeps me close to Hampton. So, but yes, we all congregated there.
And when the agents arrived, did they come inside and sit down and talk with each other of you, or how did that work?
No, sir. I offered them to come inside. It was, as you can imagine, it was hot. I said come in and offered them a drink of water, whatever, just being polite. And they said no. We would like to go ahead and start our interviews.
And where did the interviews take place?
In their cars.
And were they all done it simultaneously?
Yes, sir.
And how many SLED agent cars were out there? Do you remember?
Well, there was one for each person they were interviewing, and I would go ahead and guess that there were probably 2 or 3 more.
Okay. And I'm not sure that we need to actually play this, but have you been in the courtroom and you've heard this audio tape of Alec being interviewed on that June the 10th? Where he states something, either I did him so bad or they did him so bad. Have you heard that?
I have.
And you know Alec's voice?
I know his voice very well.
And what is he saying on that tape?
Crystal clear, they did him so bad. I mean,
and had you heard him say that before his interview that day?
I think I heard him say it either the night of or the day after, but I've also heard him say it many times after.
Well before this trial started or anything?
Well before any of this, that's right. When he was staying and living with us, or between my brother and us.
After Maggie and Paul were murdered on that night of June 7th, were you or other family members with Alec for the most part, for that week and the week after that?
You talking about the days following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I was. I made a conscious effort to be with him. I mean, as devastating as it was for me, it was 1,000 times worse for him. So I knew as a brother I needed to be there for him, and I was. Of course, I didn't sleep with him, but when we were awake, he was. I may not be standing beside him, but we would be in the room together. Or if we needed to go to the gas station, if he wanted dip, I'd ride with him. I just knew I just thought that's what I needed to do.
What was his demeanor that was in the immediate aftermath of these murders?
Oh, Jimmy, that night or days or?
That night, the next day, the day after?
Like I just said, he is, when you can use words that he was destroyed. I heard somebody say he was broken. You can use any word you want to use to describe, but I can promise you words don't do it justice. I would have to create a new word to describe how distraught he was. It's terrible.
And to carry it forward all through the summer, did he, how was he coping afterwards, say, later June and July and going forward?
It's hard to tell. I thought at times I thought he was doing okay. Other times it would just be just sheer grief. I mean, just uncontrollably crying and just, you know, of course it makes me cry. As y'all can tell, I'm a pretty emotional guy, but we would cry together. And there's no answers. And there's nothing I could say to make it better other than just hugging.
Did you start losing weight?
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely.
Was he eating, sleeping?
He was pretty heavy going into this.
Right.
And he lost a good bit of weight. I don't know how many pounds, but it became very obvious in a fairly short period of time he lost weight.
Right. I skipped over something in my outline, I apologize, but going back on the evening of June 7th, or early morning hours, did folks who were there at Alameda raise questions about perhaps the murder? Maggie and Paul were somehow associated with the
You mean in Moselle?
Yeah, the Moselle. Going back to on the evening of June 7th and June 8th, did folks at Moselle raise issues or associate the potential motive for the murder to be related to the boating accident in some form?
Well, I heard it numerous times that night. I heard it at Moselle, and I actually heard it by, Chief Alexander mentioned it. You know, once I got over the chaotic part of describing what we were doing, why I needed to get to Moselle, he asked me he's driving in front of me, and he asked me, do you think it's related to the boat accident? And of course, Greg, I don't know. I don't know anything about what's happened.
Well, you were aware of the boating accident and Paul's charges?
Yes, sir.
Weren't you aware? And was there a backlash in the community over that?
Well, it was. It was a lot of backlash. I would not say quite as much in the community, but as on social media and media inflamed rumors is the way I would describe it.
Right.
That it was just totally blown out of proportion, and I don't want to downplay the accident, but what they were saying about the stuff about Paul and Alec, it was just totally inflamed.
Okay.
And you asked about the boating accident. So
it's a family trait.
I told y'all that I called
he keeps continuing.
Michael Paul, my friend, to make sure I could go to the crime scene the next morning. Well, Michael Paul is one of my best friends, if not my best friend. I called him that night while we were still down at the crime scene, not because he's in law enforcement, not because of anything, because he's my friend. And I actually told him on the phone, I said, MP is what I said, MP, I don't even know why I called you. I just needed to talk to somebody. And we talked and, cried a little bit after I described. He didn't know what had happened, so I told him, and, I cried, and you could tell he was upset. But in that conversation, he asked me also, do you think it could be related to the boating accident?
Same objection.
Who was that objected? Was that Creighton?
Switching gears a little bit, John Marvin, when talk to you about visiting at your mom's house, mom and dad's house. There's
Nicole and Matthew. Maybe if you guys are available, we'll get you on this evening.
Where do you routinely
Not sure what
park,
your
or where
schedules
do you
are.
park sometimes when going over to your mom and dad's house?
Me, you asking where I park?
You and others, in the family.
Well, there's a couple of places you can park, depending on who's there, whether there's other cars there. You can either park at what you call the carport, and there's a big dirt area beside it. You can park there, walk up to the side door, or you can pull around to the back corner, park there. We all use both spots.
I'm going to pull up and look at it on your screen.
As a matter of fact, I told you it's my mom's birthday. I went there yesterday. I pulled right into the back of the house, but I didn't turn around. I circled the house. Okay. So there's.
So I'm going to pull up State's Exhibit 524 is in evidence, Doug, and go to slide 38. And this is the GPS OnStar data. And Doug, if you'll blow up around the house, please, sir. Thank you. Mr. Murdaugh, this is your mom's house, and this is GPS data from the night of June the 7th. Do you see that the red line there?
Yeah, it's pretty blurry on my screen. I don't know about y'all's.
Well, you want to back it out a little bit, Doug? All right, just. Is that better?
Now it's blurry
yes,
again.
it's still blurry, but I can see.
Where is that in relation to your mom's house?
You're talking about the, right there where the arrow's pointing?
Yes, sir.
That is at the back corner of the house.
Okay.
That would be exactly where I parked yesterday.
All right. And if you'll pull up, Doug, Exhibit 136. And this will be Defendant's Exhibit 136 in evidence. And tell me where that is?
That's same area. That's what I'm talking about.
Is that the same area that we just saw on the last exhibit with the red dots?
Yes.
Rain in that picture?
Okay.
Generally speaking, I mean, it's such a wide open area, so when you pull up, you're not like pulling into the exact same spot each time to where you're creating a road or whatnot. It's just a nice grassy area. You pull up, go up to the back door, and you're right there at the back of the house.
And why do you go to the back of the house?
That's when my dad was alive. There's a little breakfast room there with a recliner in it. He was either in that recliner, at the table eating, in the bed, or not at home. I mean, that literally was his.
Right. So Doug, if you pull up Defendant's 135.
So everything's at the back of the house.
Right.
I mean, it's just, they don't use this. It's a large home, and they just don't, as old as they are. Well, my mom can't get out of bed, but as old as they are, they don't go to the front.
I'm sorry, just skip that. 131, Defendant's 131 in evidence, please. Again, is this sort of the same area photographed from a different direction?
Yes, sir.
Now, what's that structure that we see in the background past that big oak tree?
That was my dad's cookhouse, or man cave, as some people would call it. That's
okay.
Yeah.
And how far is that from the house, roughly?
I would guess 60 to 80 yards.
Okay. And that's and is it open around there? I mean, from the photo, is that accurate?
Oh, it's absolutely.
All right.
That whole area is a grassy area with oak trees and pecan trees.
As excited as I am for this to finish, I'm getting
So Marvin, I want to go to Labor Day weekend of 2021. Where were you that weekend? Do you remember?
Labor Day weekend 21.
When Alec went to the hospital?
Okay, yeah, yes. So I'd been out west fishing, and I came in on Saturday night.
Okay. And did you, prior to Labor Day weekend 2021, were you aware as to whether or not Alec had a opioid addiction?
No, sir.
Did you transport Alec, drive Alec from the hospital in Savannah to a detox facility in Atlanta on that weekend, or?
Well, I believe it would have been on that Monday. I was not driving. Randy and I took him. Randy was driving, and I was in the back. But yes, sir, we did take him to a detox facility.
And where was the facility located?
Just outside of Atlanta.
Okay. And can you describe for the jury Alec's condition, like physical condition in the car?
Yes, sir. So when I met Randy over in Savannah, he had Alec, and I got in the car or Randy's truck with him. I'd never seen anything like it. I've seen television shows of talking about the leg twitching and the squirminess, if you will, and that's the first thing I mean, you could just tell he was sweating. He was thrashing about. You know, Jim,
Did he turn
I don't know
around?
how much detail you want me to go into.
What, did he turn around on the seat of the car, and what was he doing?
Yeah, so maybe halfway there, at one point, he had taken his seatbelt off and he had his head down where your fanny would be in the seat and is trying to stretch his legs and just kind of steady, just like thrashing them and kicking them. It's just, again, I've seen TV, but I've never seen something like this in real life.
And was he able to control himself?
No, sir. I said about detail. So he messed himself. He had diarrhea. He just couldn't control it.
And then...
and I say diarrhea, I'm not talking about at a restroom. I'm talking about in the car, in his pants.
Okay. And after he spent some time in the facility in Atlanta, did you and your brother go pick him up and take him to another facility in Orlando, Florida?
Yes, sir, we did.
Do you remember that?
Yes, sir, I did.
On the drive to Orlando, do you remember anything happened that stands out to you?
You know, so that drive, he was much different. He was more subdued. It was not the thrashiness, not the twitching, not the jerkiness, if you will. I don't know the words that you would use for that, but that's what I'm saying. The only thing that really stood out for me is he slept a lot of the time, but he woke up from sleeping, and when he woke up, I mean, he jerked forward, and you could just tell that, I mean, it was sheer terror. He just woke up out of a horrible dream, and I believe it was him dreaming about what he found with Paul and Maggie.
Keep going a little further, Mr. Murdaugh. And sometime in September, did SLED actually come and search the house at Alameda?
Yes, sir.
And were you present?
I was.
Okay, were you informed as to what items were seized during that search?
I was informed of one item that was seized.
And what item was that?
It was described as a coat.
What kind of coat?
Well, they didn't tell me what kind of coat.
Okay, and did they tell you where the coat was found?
Yes, sir. So I would assume that the searching of the house, all that was winding down. So Agent David Owens and I believe Randy was outside near us, but he may have been talking to somebody else. I'm not sure. May have been talking to another agent. I'm not sure. But David Owens, or Agent Owens, came up to me and said, we found a coat back on the property. Do you know anything about it? And I said, well, David, I said, if you found it back on the property, I said, it's a large piece of property, some 400-something acres. I said, my dad rides this Kubota side by side. It's probably his. And I said, and if you show it to me, I can try to identify it. And of course, he said he couldn't show it to him or wouldn't show it to me. I'm not sure what it was.
Were you sometime later asked to view a photo of a blue raincoat?
I was. Well, I was asked to view a raincoat and listen to an audio tape.
Of the kennel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the blue raincoat, were you informed where it was seized from?
Well, I knew where it was seized from because he had already told me. But I was, at this instance, I was told that they wanted us to, or when I say us, they asked Randy, Lynn, and I to go view the coat and the tape. At this point, I knew where it had been recovered, but but they said, we want you to view a coat that had been recovered out of a closet.
And was that different from what you were led to believe when you
Oh, absolutely.
had you ever, did they ever provide, anybody provide an explanation about why you were giving two different locations where a coat was found?
To this day, no one's told me that.
The photo of the coat that they showed you, had you ever seen that raincoat before?
No, sir.
And was it the blue raincoat that?
Well, it certainly looked similar to the one, I saw a picture, I didn't see the coat itself. But it certainly looked to be similar or the same.
Had you ever
Stay
seen
safe,
it before?
Drama Llama.
No, sir.
Did you recognize what closet it came out of from photos during this trial?
Well, I saw that, and I think I know what closet they're referring to.
Well,
There's only two,
let me ask you,
I'm sorry.
The closet as you go up on the first flight of stairs before you go at the landing, right there, is what's kept there?
Clothing, not everyday clothing that's more or less in storage, junk.
Right.
You know, it's not a first of all, my dad wouldn't climb stairs even if he could, but he couldn't.
Right. There's some testimony that there's GSR on that raincoat. Got any idea how there could be GSR on clothing in your dad's closet at Alameda?
Objection.
No, I
Sustained.
Did your dad carry guns around with him?
No, not in the sense that you're saying. So he was not like Paul that always had guns with him. You know, he would keep a gun if he went dove hunting, for example, and he went on one dove hunt. That gun may ride with him for 2 months. He just would stay. He just would. Same with golf clubs. If he went back when he would play golf, he just
During
a bunch of junk in his truck.
During hunting season, was there normally a gun in the back seat?
During hunting season, I would say that there usually would be.
And did he
In
have?
fact, during hunting season, because he always hunted. He always loved to go on a bird hunt.
And did he have a specific gun that he used frequently?
Oh, he had one gun.
And did that gun have a name?
It did. It was called Bo Whoop.
And did he clean it often?
I've never seen him clean it. He got that gun in 1957 for his high school graduation, and he used it for every game that he chased. But I'm sure it got cleaned somewhere along the way, but I'd never seen him clean it, and I still haven't seen him clean it.
Got it.
I don't know how the thing still works.
I've got to go get a drink of something, or else I'm going to be sleeping right here.
Along the way, have
snore.
you been receiving updates from SLED on their investigation in the Maggie and Paul's murder?
Usually when I call, I would call Agent Owens and ask for updates, and he would try to provide some updates. It almost always seemed like there was stuff that he really, I don't know whether he didn't know or just it wasn't at liberty to say at the time. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think he would try to give updates as best as possible.
And you provided information on evidence that they had against your brother.
I have been, yes, sir.
Has
some of it.
And some of the information that you've been provided turned out not to be accurate information.
Yes, sir.
What type of information?
Well, I was told at one point that there was a T-shirt that he was wearing. And can I back up and tell you how we got into this conversation?
Sure.
So I'm having a meeting with SLED.
Yes, sir. The nature of the drug.
Calls for your sir.
Statement of an opponent, Your Honor, agent of an. It's a statement of a party opponent.
Party opponent.
Agent of the party opponent. Agent
of the
sir.
party opponent.
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have you take a break now. Please do not discuss the case.
Okay, I got back with my drink just in time. What in the world was that objection for? A SLED opponent is a statement of a SLED person is a party opponent? Is this yoga time or? Let's see what we got here.
All right, everybody be seated.
We've got to get Alec back on the stand. Is that what they want?
Hear this objection again.
Stays objecting, calls for hearsay.
All right. In your response to the Mr.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just a moment, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Conrad's response to Mr. Griffin.
Your Honor, I think his argument was it's an admission by a party opponent. And I don't think we're talking about
Party opponent.
right. And the subsection 801D2, I think, is what we're referencing, and it talks about admission by a party opponent. It doesn't necessarily talk about the statement. And I think what we're getting into are some statements by particular law enforcement officers who've already been on the stand, and I don't think those are admissions to any issue that's of relevance in this case.
Mr. Griffin?
Your Honor, they're directly relevant. The statements relate to evidence that they've told the family they have against Mr. Murdaugh.
Directly relevant?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the objection is not based on relevance.
Oh, I thought that's what, so a statement of a party opponent is non-hearsay under the definition of hearsay. Your Honor, it's, I don't have the rule in front of me, but under
the state of South Carolina is a party opponent in this case?
And SLED is the investigative agency? Yes, sir.
Wow.
If otherwise, the rule would not apply in a criminal case. I mean, it has to be the investigative agency. I'm not asking for Colleton County statements, or it's the...
No, you've gotten those in already, the newspaper statements, Colleton County's call to the newspaper or whatever.
Yes, sir.
What else, Mr. Conrad?
I'd also object for the relevance as well, Your Honor, because the state has not offered the shirt in evidence, and the defense is attempting to kind of backdoor here, and it simply doesn't go to any issue, anything that's issued in this trial.
He's already testified to the shirt.
Well, to the shirt, but he's trying to get evidence, and maybe we need to proffer it to see exactly what he would say, but my assumption was that he was going to start talking about a report by Mr. Bevel, which we've talked about several times in this case, and I'd object to the relevance and to, particularly with Mr. Murdaugh bringing it up.
All right. Well, tell me again what you're asking the witness.
Yes,
or proffer it to the witness.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So, Mr. Murdaugh, what information were you provided by, was it a SLED agent that provided you the information?
Yes.
You were asking him about Agent Owens. He's a SLED agent, yes.
And what information were you provided that leading up to this that turns out to be inaccurate?
Right, and it was okay for me to speak for you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So what I was asking, I was saying I wanted to back up to get to where I was getting this information. So I'd been called to SLED, not headquarters, but their office in Walterboro to view the Blue Coat and to listen to an audio. After my interview with them, Captain Ryan Neal, I believe we were in his office, is the one that, and I'm going to use my terminology here, but described the white T-shirt covered in blood, even went so far as to describe that Ellick took the bottom of it and wiped his face with it, and that's how they knew he was involved. That's how they knew he was there.
He did it twice on video.
And I don't know where the question goes after
Can I
that.
ask you a question, or are you trying to dig more out of him?
That's it.
All right, and what's your objection?
I renew my objection to the relevance. Nothing has been put, this jury hasn't heard any evidence about any blood being on this T-shirt, and the state has not offered any reports to suggest as such.
The objection is overruled. We're going to take 10 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, 10 minutes. Is that enough time to have Matthew and Nicole on? What would our topic be? What are we going to talk about? I don't want to be unprepared here. Let's see. About reasonable doubt. Okay, well, let's get this guy off because we don't want to hear him. Let's see what we got. Left y'all for 8 minutes and all heck breaks loose. Cash that. Yes, it's gone crazy here. So who's this on the stand? This is John Marvin. This is Alec's brother. I do have Zoom open if anybody wants to join who has the access. Let's see. We could discuss the absolute snooze fest of these last 2 hours. Matthew, if you guys heard like subtle snoring, that was me. It's been rough to keep my eyes open during this part. And I've sat through some pretty boring parts of trial. Okay, so now the jury will hear that the T-shirt had no blood on it, and SLED knew that before the defense got a hold of the reports. I think that's where we're headed, and maybe they'll wrap up with the afternoon would be better. Okay, Fifth Amendment issue. Okay, and reasonable doubt. Let's do that. I'm not sure what Matthew's schedule is this afternoon, but we'll see. Afterwards, we'll connect. Nicole, you've got the Zoom link, right? We'll use the same Zoom link from before. You can just connect to whenever. I'll have it running, and you'll just pop up in there. Okay. I take a meeting and come back to diarrhea. Yeah, that was exciting, huh? The only reason I was alive is I said nothing. Wow. I once had an expert witness explain the process of concrete drying, and it was absolutely riveting by comparison. Did he explain it in real time? Was he like narrating it as it happened? Because that just does sound fascinating compared to what we're sitting through. It does seem weird that they're bringing in the shirt evidence through John Marvin right at the end. But maybe this is their grand finale. Let's see. If it's not a St. Louis Cardinals coat, it ain't mine, says Mary Kay. Let's see. If there are any addicts that are extremely computer savvy, my PC is a giant mess and I need to reset it. Sounds like we've got a couple. I know we have a couple people here in chat today specifically that have some incredible computer skills. I could help you with some of it, but retaining any data would not be one of the things I would be effective at. You're staining yourself from hammer use right now. You might want to order the new computer now because it sounds like you're about to lose one. Your frustration is going to get the better of you, and boom, computer homicide. Is that what it's called? I did some update on my files scattered everywhere. My C drive is full, which is crazy because it's 4 terabytes. That's a big drive. And my C drive is now my Google Cloud Drive. Oh, man. Yep, it's time to just start over from scratch. Throw away everything, just restart. This is where gifts in chat would be beneficial. Imagine Ron Swanson throwing his computer in the dumpster. Do I think they'll televise the money trial? Are any of those trials non-federal? Well, I guess they somewhat would be non-federal. Maybe, but we've really watched them all already, Tom. Give me a mini excavator. I'll find the problem in your computer for sure. Yeah, do the whole F disk. That'll fix it. Samantha Terry just gifted a membership, and Kai Mom received the membership she gifted. Thank you very much, Samantha Terry. Yeah, the federal one's definitely not going to be televised. He has admitted under oath to committing those crimes. Doesn't he have to plead guilty at this point? He doesn't have to, but it sounds like his testimony in this trial might be used against him in the other one. Can't watch another Murdaugh murder money trial. This one's been bad enough. Okay. All right. Good news. Good news. We've fixed the sewer damage, the sewer line damage. I know you guys you're wondering, but my buddy who's helping us with this renovation knew exactly what to do and how to do it. And so he's also the gentleman who's been running the excavator. So we made a quick fix, and now it's actually hitting that sewer line was probably the best thing we could have done because it was completely in a different spot than we expected. We were expecting to have to trench like 8 feet deep everywhere to get down to this pipe. And turns out that is not what has to happen. Yes, DMB, we broke the sewer line. We broke it, and now it's been mended. And now we've got the proper attachment set up. We've got a clean out now that we didn't have before, which is always good as well. So we've got a clean out. We've got just good things happening. So now we'll lay the sewer line in through the garage, through the floor, underneath where the kitchen sink will go, underneath the bathroom, through the washer and dryer area. Run the pipes up. Got the inspector to come and give us the okay. We'll cover that with a little bit of dirt. As soon as we've got a little bit of dirt on it, then we're going to run some other cables, some other pipes down there, and then have another inspector come in and look, and we're going to run all our different pipes and connections and everything through there. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. I think that Alex Murdaugh was very generic in his admissions, and he will fight the fraud charges just like these charges. Poot has already alluded to that after he stated that Alex Murdaugh would allegedly get life. How did you break your sewer line? Are you on a well? I'm not on a well, Little Miss. I'm on city water from the water tower, but we broke the sewer line with a mini excavator. We found it and just scooped right through the top of it. Full Mario. Yeah, only I'm not going down the pipe, DMB. There's not a chance of that. Owning a home is expensive. Ginger, truer words were never spoken, but let me just add one thing. Owning a historic home is exponentially expensive. I don't know what I'm going to do when I need to replace the roof, which, the next hurricane is pretty much going to take off. But if you run a dead wire along your pipes, it will save your kids from going through the same thing. You can use the wire to locate. We're actually redrawing plans for the whole yard because we now know where. I've now replaced every line going into the house except for gas, and I know where gas is. But we've replaced all of them. So we're going to remap out everything, and I'll have plans of the entire yard of where things are located. Hopefully I'll never need to use them, but we'll have them anyway. Don't think I could watch Money Trials. I feel like we've already watched it. Like 4 times, Elizabeth. 4 times over. Home's from 1934. That's not bad. I've got 1915 was mine. Weather Watch, we're asking for updates. I'm not sure if you want to pop on, Thomas, or not. So if you want, the Zoom's open as well. Yeah, fun stuff. You do not want a busted sewer line. 3 words. Cholera, typhoid fever. Yeah, it was, we busted it, and we're sitting there looking at it. We're thinking, yeah, that looks like a sewer line. And we're like, well, there's one way to tell. I'll run inside and run a little bit of water. I'm like, sure enough. There it is. So, all good fun. All fixed, though, now. I will say that the area where we broke the line had been damaged. The pipe had been damaged before, and do you know how they fixed it? They took some tin and bent it around the pipe, just set it on there, and held it in place with the dirt and filled it in. So yeah, it was on the top of the pipe, so it really didn't leak that way because it's never backed up. But still, it was awful. Thanks for the emojis, Goodman Law Firm. Nicole, those look great. Wow, look at all those faces. Computer is apparently damaged. 3 gavels to the monitor equals boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Call up Best Buy. I'm just kidding. You might need a new computer, Nicole. Might have to do it. Husband's Family Farm in Wilmington is from 1742. Girl next door. I think your husband's family farm needs to be metal detected, and I know just the guy who can do it. That would be me. Where's Wilmington? Wilmington or Williamston? What state is that? Is that still in North Carolina? I don't know the state geography very well. If Siri can't get me there, I don't know where it is. Are they done with him? Had a meeting? No, we've got a little bit more. It's a laptop. Let's see. Yes, the new emoji. I removed the white from the background, and the bull crap looks just a little bit better on the emoji that way. Thanks. This emoji was artwork courtesy of Tag, who also provided the artwork for the Wellingtons, the wellies with the umbrella, and what was the other one? Tag. I forget what it was, but yeah, we've got a couple different things. I'll turn the sound back up here for a second. Let's see. South Carolina. Okay, I'm up for a road trip. Remind me later to tell you about the abandoned mining town I'm going to metal detect in a couple weeks. Oh, that's so much fun. Goodman Law. There was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, that I would head down all sorts of different mine shafts. There was a time I would go down mine shafts by myself where people didn't know where I was. And I'm lucky to be alive. But grace and peace. Hey, welcome. Good to have you here. Alienware will send out a guy to fix it for you for free. Alienware they make some good laptops. Very spendy, but high end. Good stuff. And the plus side is you can game on them as well because they're really good equipment. Stu says, I thought that his testimony on cleaning up Paul was beautiful, terrifying, and heart-wrenching. Yes. For anyone who's been in that situation, yeah, you're like, your initial, if you haven't been in there, you're like, why was he doing that? That should be all cleaned up. Guess what the police don't do? The police don't come and clean it up and pick up all the pieces and spray it off. They get what they need and they leave. And, if they're lucky, they might give you a business card of somebody that they recommended in the past to do the cleanup, and that's either on you to have someone come in and do it, or you have to do it yourself. Let's see. Williamston, North Carolina, in Martin County, 45 minutes away from Greenville. Hey, that's closer than I found my gold coin. Girl next door. That's not too far away. The emojis are so small, it's hard to tell what they are. It is. Bite me. That's a difficult thing. I've got 48 by 48 pixels to work with. That's what YouTube gives me. And so the three, like these three that DMB has here, these three were drawn by Tag. The artwork is incredible. It's really good. But when you render it down to 48 by 48 pixels, there's nothing there. There's nothing to see. Cat Humphreys, hi. Welcome. Good to have you here. That's why I don't want to replace it. I just got it about a year ago for $6K. Oh my goodness. At that price, if you're spending that kind of money, you can buy a high-end Mac, and they just work. They do. They just work. Let's see. Mutt tried and failed to join the Zoom. People think police job is to make this not have happened. That's not the case. The police job is to keep the peace. Parking space sold for 150 grand. I cannot afford Boston. I cannot afford Boston. 1,200 acre farm, awesome for metal detecting, especially after the fields are plowed before planting. Girl next door, I'm honestly asking, do you know if the family has had the property metal detected before? Because I won't promise anything, but I have some pretty close connections with a group here in North Carolina that does metal detecting and is looking for large farm areas to hold events, and they pay very well. They reward the landowner very well for the privilege of having people on there for about a week, and then they disappear and all looks good, and they clean up after themselves, and everybody's happy. Why does it say I'm offline? My laptop just went offline briefly. Now, Nicole, your computer problems are contagious because now my computer's acting up. I'm afraid court will be right back the second I log back into Zoom. Two current nadir warnings moving into Columbus, and just south, a few severe thunderstorm warnings in surrounding areas. Man, that's scary stuff. If you're in those areas, please keep your weather radios turned on and be prepared to get to a safe place. Rockin' Dawkins says, trying to run certain legal software on a Mac, you'll have to close down the iOS and switch. It's a real bear. They don't make all software for Mac. That's true. Yep. Here's what that means, Rockin' Dawkins. It means that there is a business opportunity for a programmer to write a program or write a tool that will interface with the other program. Was that a new bailiff that said please
bring the jury?
We'll have to listen and see who says the bailiff, which bailiff says the jury's here. Ivan, you've got some stories to tell. Those will be. Might have to do a late night show for those ones though.
Bring the jury.
Bring the jury. Girl next door, if they'd be interested to possibly having an event held on the property that lasts for 3 days or so, with people that show up and they stay in hotels and then they come in metal detector in the day, just daytime hours only, and they fill up all the holes and take all the trash they find and everything. I'd love to pass the information on. Of course, I'd like to detect it myself, but that's just me. I can't detect the 1,700 acres. That is amazing. We'll just need to get you a metal detector as well, and maybe bring some for the family. I think I have 6 detectors now.
The jury is present, sir.
All right, thank you. The objection is overruled.
The jury's like, I don't even remember what we were talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Murdaugh. When we broke, the question on the table was about a conversation that you had with a SLED agent regarding some matter of evidence. Can you provide your answer, please, sir?
Yes. So, as I was about to say, what led me to this conversation was that SLED asked my brother, my sister, and I to come over to identify or attempt to identify a coat and a recording. And we did that. And so I did my interview with them. And then after the interview, we went into Captain Ryan Neal's, I think he's captain, but Agent Ryan Neal's office at the same SLED office. And in that office, or in his office, we were all in there. They made reference to the shirt that they said Alec was wearing. They told us that it was covered in blood. They went so far as to tell me on the police body cam that he takes his shirt and wipes his face, and that's how they knew that Alec was at the scene, that he was the one.
John Marvin, just finishing up, what was Alex's relationship with Maggie and Paul's parents? Grandma and Papa T, as we've heard.
Grandma and Papa T, that's great. They had a great relationship. Alec and Papa T played golf together regularly. I mean, it's just a really good father-in-law, son-in-law relationship, and mother-in-law.
And have you?
They would travel together, vacation together with different places.
And have you stayed in contact with them as best you could?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We communicate.
And just
now,
briefly,
Papa T has taken ill and is homebound now.
I was going to ask you.
He's had a stroke and is basically homebound.
Okay.
And Miss Kennedy stays at home and takes care of him. But they are wonderful people. Let me just go a little bit further. Wonderful people in and of themselves, but their relationship was absolutely great.
Jamar, I want to go back to that morning of June the 8th when you were down at the kennel cleaning up. Do you remember making a promise that morning?
Well, Jim, as I've told y'all, that y'all know what I saw, y'all know what I was doing. It was difficult. It was nearly impossible. In my mind and out loud, I told Paul I loved him. I told him, I don't know, I loved him, and I promised him that I'd find out who did this to him. You just don't know what to do, but it was tough.
And you promised him you would find out who did this to him?
Yes, sir, I did.
Have you found out?
I have not.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Would you like to?
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Murdaugh.
Good afternoon.
I think you'd agree with me that no matter which way you cut it, your family suffered a great tragedy, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
And
including the death of my dad and the sickness of my mom. I mean, it's tough.
And I'm sorry you and your family's been through this.
Well, thank you.
All right. And I think you testified a little while ago about the cooperation you and particularly your brother provided SLED. Is that correct?
Did I provide cooperation with SLED?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And to your knowledge,
I have and will continue to.
And to your knowledge, your brother was providing cooperation to SLED as well, correct?
I believe everyone in my family was, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And would you consider that cooperation full cooperation? Not only for yourself, but your brother as well, from what you have observed?
I mean, to me, full cooperation, yeah. I mean, it's wide open. You tell us what you need from me, and I'll provide it. And I told him I would provide it.
And from what you've observed, your brother was providing the same full cooperation as well, correct?
Yeah, so I believe any time that they asked to search something, anytime they asked to do something, they asked for information, it typically came to me, and yes, I would provide it.
Okay, I'm asking about your brother right now. I understand you have. But to your knowledge, did your brother provide full cooperation? Or did he tell you he was providing full cooperation?
Well, he didn't tell me, but it appeared to be obvious that by him giving them access to anything they asked for, that he was.
Okay. So when did you first learn that your brother was down at the kennels just before the murders? 2 days ago with the rest of us?
No. So obviously I went for an interview with SLED, the one I told you about, where we talked about the shirt, talked about the blood, all that. That was the reason for me being there, was to hear that audio. And I saw the kennel, and of course, at that point, I heard his voice, and I knew that was him.
Okay. You knew that was him when you saw that video, correct?
That's correct.
Or listened to the video?
When I listened to it.
Right. And do you recall the date of that interview when you first listened to that video?
I do not.
All right. Would you disagree with me if I said it was August 12th of 2022?
I have no way to agree or disagree.
Or at least during the month of August of 2022?
Again, I'm sure they have my interview recorded for that date, but
All right. Before August of 2022, at that interview, when you heard your brother's voice at the kennels, had he ever told you that he was down there just prior to the murders?
No, sir.
Did he ever tell you that afterwards, after you listened to that video?
No, sir. And I'm trying to think if we've been able to have an opportunity to even speak.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you'd agree that if he had not told SLED that was not full cooperation, correct? If he had not told SLED that he was at the kennels just before the murders, he had not actually been fully cooperative.
What's your question?
Would you agree that that is not full cooperation?
By him not telling SLED that he was at the kennel?
Correct.
I would say that yes, he lied.
Okay. All right, so I don't want to go through the whole kind of vehicle shell game that we talked about earlier. It's confusing, probably to me most of all, but let's just focus on, so what was Paul's normal daily driver? What vehicle did he drive on a daily basis?
On a normal basis, he drove a white F-150 Platinum.
Okay.
And let me confuse you a little bit more, as I drive the identical truck.
Okay. All right. So you testified that Paul's F-150 Platinum was at Jimmy Butler's over the weekend, correct?
It was being worked on at Jimmy Butler's, that's correct.
And then Monday, there's a series of car swaps. I don't want to go through them, but at the end of the day, you end up in the F-250 farm truck, correct?
That's correct.
And Paul ends up in your F-150 Platinum.
Ultimately, he does. He drives a mom's car back to Alameda.
Right, I know there's several swaps.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I'm just kind of talking at the end of the day. And he drove your F-150 back to Moselle, that night, correct?
To Moselle, yes, sir.
And you testified that you came over later that night after Alex had called you about the murders, correct?
That's correct.
Where was your truck parked when you first got there? And we'll talk about how you got there in a minute, but where was Paul's truck?
Well, so first of all, that night.
Your truck, I'm sorry.
That's right, I know what you're saying. So when I got there, we didn't go anywhere near the house. I went straight to where everything was happening.
Okay.
As we went to the house later that night, I saw my truck. So it's probably 4 in the morning, whatever time we were, 3 or 4 in the morning. It was parked in front of the house, normally where you would park cars.
Okay. So just kind of straight out the front door?
That's correct.
And the keys that Paul had been using, do you recall were they left in the truck or have any recollection of where those keys might have ended up?
Well, they were sitting in the ignition. I mean,
Okay.
same place I always leave them.
Okay.
Because I drove it to Alameda that night.
All right. And meanwhile, you were in that F-250 farm truck, right?
For a short period of time.
And that, refresh my memory, is that white as well, or is that a different?
It's white as well, yes, sir.
And it's broke down on you on the way to Moselle, correct?
That is correct, on
And you
Highway
left-
63.
All right. And you left it on the side of the road, correct?
I did.
Okay. And I think, did you call Chief Alexander at that point, or?
Well, we were riding, we were driving separate cars, but together.
Okay.
And so at that point, he had gotten in front of me, and I had to call him to tell him to turn around.
Okay. And he came back and picked you up?
Came back, and I jumped in his car.
You
or
left the
truck
truck
or
there.
whatever, it was Suburban.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to talk over you, my apologies. And you left the F-250 there on the side of the road?
I did.
Okay. All right. And rode with Chief Alexander to the property?
That's correct.
And were you aware that your brother Alex had loaned Chief Alexander money at several points over the past couple of years?
I was not.
All right. And you testified that you learned of your brother's opioid addiction the weekend of Labor Day of 2021. Is that correct?
Well, that's when it started coming out, yes, sir.
Okay. So did you have any idea that he had a opioid or drug problem prior to that?
Prior to that, I did not.
Okay. So from your observations of him on a daily basis, he seemed to be sober at most times or not under the influence of any? Did you ever observe him under the?
Well, keep in mind now, so again, I'm not a lawyer in the firm. I live in Beaufort, so I don't see him daily.
Okay.
But our encounters usually would be during non-working hours.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, yes, I had no reason to think he was on pills.
Okay. All right. He's able to function pretty normally on a daily basis to your observations?
Yes, sir.
This is John Marvin testifying. It's Alex's brother.
So let's talk about the morning of June 8th. You said that you were the first person over to the house at Moselle that morning. Did I understand that
That's
correctly?
correct.
And you're the first person inside the house at that point?
That's correct.
Okay. And so do you recall when Blanca Simpson got there?
I don't. What I can tell you is I was the last to leave the house and the first to come back in.
Okay. So she would have gotten there some point after you?
Yes, sir.
That morning,
And I've heard in testimony that instead of going to Moselle, she went to Alameda.
But when she came to Moselle, it would have been after you, correct?
I think the other folks were there as well. Yeah, but well after me.
Okay. And you testified about being in that, I guess some folks call it the gun room, when SLED came in and started looking at some of those guns in the gun room, correct?
That's correct. Well, I wasn't in the gun room. I was in the main part of the house.
Okay. Did you ever go into the gun room while SLED was in
I
there?
did.
Okay. Because I think there's a video and evidence, and we're not going to go dig it up, but of SLED with body camera footage, and I think you do appear a bit.
I think so. I think probably what best recollection I have is I was in the main part of the house with Alec and family, and someone came and told me they were there and that they wanted to look around.
Okay.
And of course, I went to make sure that they had full access.
When you were in there, do you recall who was in there with you, other than the SLED agents? Because there were several other people, correct?
Well, I don't recall. Without seeing the video, I saw the video. I saw Mark Ball. I saw Lee Cope. I saw the Agent McAllister, but I don't think I would have remembered that.
Okay, but there are several attorneys in there, though, at a minimum, correct?
Friends and attorneys. Friends. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Was Chris Wilson in there at that time?
You know, I don't remember. Okay. I don't have any recollection of him being there.
Okay. All right, and then let's go to June 10th when SLED came over to, I believe it was Greenfield where they came?
That's correct.
To interview. It was you, Buster, Randy, Alex. I guess that's 4, right? Is that all who were interviewed that day to your recollection?
Randy, me, Alec, and Buster. That's correct.
Okay. I think you testified that they didn't want to come inside. Is that what you testified to?
Well, I don't think they didn't not want to come inside because of any particular reason. I just think they wanted to get about their business.
So you don't recall?
I offered for them. I offered to come in, use the restroom, anything of that nature, drink water, anything like that, but they did not.
You don't recall Lieutenant Gint coming in and introduce himself?
Inside the lodge? I do not.
Okay. All right. And you've either been interviewed or sat in several interviews by SLED over the last few years, correct?
I've been in a few, yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm going to direct your attention to October 12th of 2010. Let me make sure I have that date correct. Or excuse me, not 2010. That would have been 2021. And I believe SLED came to your house that day. Do you recall that day?
I do recall SLED coming to my house.
Okay.
I can't tell you that's the date, but they certainly came.
This would have been the day that they interviewed both Buster and your wife that day. Does that help you out?
It does. I remember them coming. It was Agent Croft and I believe Agent Ryan Kelly.
Okay. And you sat into both those interviews, correct, with both Buster and your wife?
Well, I think the interview with one was an interview for Buster,
okay,
and one was an interview with me and my wife.
Okay. All right. So you
that's the way I thought it was.
Okay.
I didn't think it was 3 interviews.
All right. And do you recall during that October 12th interview the subject of this blue jacket coming up with Buster? Specifically, I'm talking about the one with Buster.
The conversation at my house?
Yes.
I do not recall it coming up.
So you don't recall SLED bringing up, asking Buster about a blue jacket on October 12th of 2020?
I do not recall that.
So you don't recall his response?
I don't recall him bringing up a jacket.
Okay. Do you recall Buster responding that he did not recognize the blue jacket that was presented to him?
I don't recall a blue jacket being discussed.
Okay. And I think you also looked at it, and you don't recall.
They did not show me a blue jacket. There was no blue jacket discussion in that interview, to my knowledge.
Okay. Let's see. One big court's even.
I think it's interesting that the.
Do you recall what the busser's
I'll
response
have to wait on that
in
one.
that
You'll just have to
interview
hold
to
off.
being asked if that could be Randolph's jacket, to him saying if it's over $15, no, it wasn't?
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay what Buster said. He's asking to recall what Buster said.
I sustain the objection.
And you agreed with what Buster said right afterwards. You don't recall that?
No, Mr. Conner. What I'm telling you is I don't recall any discussions of a blue jacket in that interview. I just don't recall that. I don't. So you asking me that, I'm just telling you I don't know of any discussions about a jacket in that interview.
Okay. All right. You testified about driving up to rehab, I think that Monday after Labor Day, or excuse me, detox, correct? With
It
your
was
brother.
detox, that's correct.
And you said your brother kind of woke up startling as if from a dream. Is that what you testified to?
No, sir.
Okay.
I said that when I was driving, well, Randy and I were driving him from detox to the rehab facility down, and that was down in Orlando, Florida, is when that happened.
All right. And you said, and again, I want to make this as clear as we can. You said you thought that he was waking up in response to a dream about the night of June 7th. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
That is the way that's what it appeared to be to me. And that's, of course, I can't tell you what he was dreaming, but that's certainly what it appeared to me.
So you're not saying that because he said that, right?
That's right. He didn't wake up and say that. It was just such a startling, just the way he woke up out of his sleep. It was just so startling. It was fear. And it took him several seconds to realize that whatever he just saw was not real, or he was not living it.
Okay. You testified about the day of June 7th and the taking your dad to the hospital, him getting admitted, correct?
I did.
And that you and your brother Randy were sending out multiple group texts about your dad's status. Is that correct?
Well, I sent a text, and I believe Randy sent one as well.
Okay. And
along with phone calls. I know Randy and I discussed it on the phone as well.
And if I understood your testimony correctly, and you said that June 7th was actually kind of a hopeful day. Is that based off of what the doctors were saying?
Well, yes, based on all the bad news that he's been receiving, it was one little piece of hope that, certainly if the doctor would have said at that point, you're going home on hospice tomorrow, it would have been, that would be the worst case. But him saying that there was hope, that it was pneumonia and not the cancer, that there was some breathing treatments that may help, it gave us some hope.
And you sent out at least one group text with this information, correct, to your family members, right?
I know I sent one. I could have sent another, but I know there was one.
Okay. And do you recall if your brother was included in that? Alex, specifically, was included?
I saw the record showing it, and so yes, I believe it was my family, and I think it was just our family, actually.
And so there was hope, at least on the afternoon of June 7th, that your dad, who had pneumonia, which could potentially be treated, and there was a little bit of hope about that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if your brother had told Janine Seckinger during that day that your dad was taking a major turn to the worse, that would not be truthful, correct?
That would be correct. And the testimony I heard is he didn't say that.
He didn't say what?
He didn't say it was terminal or dire or whatever you're saying.
Are you based off of Alex's testimony?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if Janine Seckinger...
well, I can tell you this. If somebody said that day that it was terminal, one of two people was wrong, or both.
Okay. All right. So if Janine Seckinger was told that...
If Jeannie Seckinger said that, she was wrong.
Well, were you present for any conversations between your brother and Janine Seckinger on June 7th?
I wasn't.
One last thing, Mr. Murdaugh. Would you say that the Murdaugh name and legacy is something that's important to you and your brothers?
Yes, I think any family's name and legacy is important to them. Do I think my family's name is more important than yours or any of y'all's? No, I don't.
Okay. But it's important to your brother as well, correct?
I think he would feel the exact same way as what I just said, that all families are important.
Okay. No problem. No.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down.
Here we go.
Fence rests, Your Honor.
Boom. That's it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the defense's case. And we will excuse you for this day and have you come back at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Have a good evening.
Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of rebuttal. After the rebuttal, we're going to have our poll. Okay, so the poll's going to be tomorrow. I do think tomorrow is also going to be the field trip, because there's no way you can have the jury out deliberating and then saying, hey, wait, before you're finished deliberating, let's take you out to see this. It has to be tomorrow. It's got to be tomorrow, possibly the day after, but I don't think it's going to be even a full day of testimony tomorrow for rebuttal. So it's in the next 2 days for sure, but I think it's going to be tomorrow. The jury's going to be out to Moselle. They're going to see just how fast you can drive on that road.
Everyone will be seated. The defense has rested any matters of law at this time.
Your Honor, we would, defense would just renew our
all the
motion
objections
for directed verdict on the grounds previously argued at the close of the state's case. That's all.
Mr. Waters.
Your Honor, again, we would rely on our arguments previously made that the motion should be denied. Be happy to answer any specific issues Your Honor may have, but I would rely on our previous arguments.
All right. The motion is denied based on all the reasons stated at the close of the state's case. Now, with regard to reply, what do you have, Mr. Waters?
Yes, sir. We have maybe 4 witnesses, maybe 5 at this point in time.
Okay, that's more than a day.
Hopeful that we could accomplish that in a day. Obviously,
it's more than a day.
As is the nature of reply, we will, assess that tonight. But right now, I have 4 definite witnesses and perhaps a 5th that, as it stands right now, that we would have. I don't think many of them, except for one, would be very lengthy. And by lengthy, I don't mean exceptionally so.
Any comment, Mr. Harpootlian or Mr.
Your Honor, I no way critical of Mr. Waters, but his estimate of time has been a little mushy, I think is a good way to put it. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying
yes, he is.
This was going to be a 3-week trial, and now it's a 6-week trial. I'm just a little skeptical that we'll get it all done tomorrow. I'm just saying I'll be happy, I'll be ecstatic if it happens, but for planning purposes, perhaps maybe midday Wednesday would be a better.
Jury visit.
Pardon me?
Jury visit.
Oh, and somewhere in this process, Your Honor's indicated you'd allow the jury to visit the site.
At
So
the close of the reply.
Close of reply.
Okay.
So now we know
So
exactly when.
we're at, I guess, Mr. Waters' mercy to.
Mr. Waters, are these witnesses who you anticipate will contradict issues presented by the defense or address the credibility of matters raised by the defense?
It will be focused on issues that were raised during the defense case, yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Well, 9:30 tomorrow morning. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. All rise. Okay, that was a lot of fun. By that means I should have brought my pillow and a blanket and slept through today. But Lindsay Hendricks says, recovery addict, does the defense have the right to know who the state is calling tomorrow? I think they will be notified before. They'll probably know tonight who it is. But so I mean the defense knows all the witnesses. They give them the witness list of who may be called. It might be some of the same people that were called before or something. I don't know. Or were on the list before. I'm online with technical support, says Nicole Goodman. Okay, so that's priority, Nicole. I understand if you can't come join us right now. Families making their way out of the courtroom right now. Interesting line of questioning when the prosecution asked John Marvin when he found out or how he found out that Alex was actually down at the murder scene or right before the murders occurred. Right before the state says the murders occurred. I should probably clarify that. And he said that it was through basically the SLED playing that video for him and him recognizing Alex's voice and knowing then that he was there, even though up to that point Alex had said he had not been there. He had lied to the family. And then John Marvin went on even to say that he didn't know. There's Buster right there as a head out. He didn't know that that he was there and had never had an opportunity to speak with him even to this day about it. Interesting. That's a huge thing. I mean, that seems like a big deal. Okay. We're looking at the clock. I turned away just in time. Aren't rebuttal witnesses a bit different than initial witnesses? I theorize Russell Lafitte, Curtis Eddie Smith, and hospital staff and some sheriffs that AM implicated. I think they're going to be expert witnesses. There may be some, if there's anyone who can testify that that some of the testimony given by a defense witness is a lie and is credible about that, possibly could bring that in, but I don't know. I guess some of them are short, so those short ones are probably going to be direct contrary testimony, and one lengthy one's probably an expert. So maybe you've got four Russell Lafitte, Curtis Eddie Smith, hospital staff, sheriff, and then an expert. Maybe that's what we get. Do you remember when he said he learned of Alex being down there? Yes, that was in August. At sometime in August, I believe the actual date was used, but I don't recall. In August, there was a SLED interview when he was played that video, and that's when he found out the kennel video. Is there a rebuttal to rebuttal? No, unfortunately. That's the state has the burden of proof, and they get that little extra shot at that. So that's all they get. Next trial, Suitcase Killer, Sarah Boone's April 10th. Katerina, that is going to be amazing. That trial, I've been following that recently. There are a couple little document updates, not really big stuff, but just the approved expenses for different investigators, $10,000 here, $10,000 there type thing, to do some investigation as they are preparing to have her defense, put on her defense in that trial. So that's gonna be a lot of fun, because of any trial, that one, she's gonna take the stand and talk. She's gonna take the stand, and her lawyer is gonna his head's gonna hit the table as soon as she says yes, because he's gonna do everything he possibly can to keep her from taking the stand, and she's gonna talk. That's my call. Hope she testifies too. I was hoping to see Morgan Dowdy or Connor testify to the hospital visit from Alex Murdaugh. That would be interesting, because there are a couple people who could probably testify to that, about how he acted in the hospital. Lindsay says Recovery Act hospital staff and sheriff could be used to rebut, to respond to Alex Murdaugh testimony on cross, or to rebuttal witnesses never apply to things said on cross-examination. It should be rebutting stuff that defense witnesses raised or issues that came up in that process. Because basically everything the state wanted to present, they should have done already. And then new items were brought up or new things were said that the state needs to answer, or that's what the rebuttal's for, is that answer. It's going to be a mess if there's a conviction, the perjury from the grand jury, violation of Fifth Amendment, etc. There's a lot of issues for appeal here, I think. I agree. Sarah Boone's going to get up there for sure. If Cousin Eddie is called, Alex's goose is cooked. I don't know. I think that opens up doors that will be just crazy. There's Alex hopping in the Uber. They're going to pull away sometime soon. I'm not sure why we're only getting audio in one channel, but Lost Souls Paranormal says, another great stream. Thank you, Recovery Addicts. You're welcome, Lost Souls. Thanks for being here. I appreciate that. It would not be the same here without you. I believe that Alex Murdaugh has most likely spoken to John Marvin by phone. If he has, those are public record calls. They can be subpoenaed, and I'm sure they would be released at this point. The Murdaugh podcast would be covering them. Do we know how much the GFM page is at? The GoFundMe? Let me take a quick look. I think it was like $1,400 is where we were at. I think that's right. Yeah, it's $1,460. Awesome. It was just awesome. All rise. Remain in order. Remember to like the coverage. Hey Rando, you're talking about just you guys. You guys have made it be awesome. What you guys do in chat is what makes it just amazing here. The stream, I'm pretty quiet. I just sit here and stare at the TV for most of the day when it's boring like this. But you guys are what makes it a lot of fun. This isn't Alex Murdaugh technically a defense witness? Recovery addict. I'm referring to his use of badge at the hospital, his use of blue lights and clearance to get them. If he ever used his badge improperly, yes, he could. Those could be rebuttal issues, for sure, because that was testimony that he gave during the defense side that he might answer to. Charlie Peterson gifted yet another membership, and it went to Adam Burdett. Thomas, yes, the chat was just amazing. It's awesome to see one a group come together like that and help somebody else. Thank you, donating anonymously. You guys are amazing. Glad we could help. See, this case is taking us into Friday. Natural Empress. No. I don't think. Well, I think we'll be doing Verdict Watch on Friday, but the case itself, it's Monday right now. Okay, it's Monday. Tomorrow is rebuttal, and we'll be mostly done with rebuttal, if not all the way done with rebuttal tomorrow. We then have jury instructions, which will be worked on overnight, and then closing arguments is going to be one day as well. Plus, we've got closing arguments will be half a day, and the jury visit to Moselle is probably going to be half a day as well. So possibly. The judge said they're going after the rebuttal, so it's going to be Wednesday's field trip day for the jury, and then Thursday is probably maybe Wednesday afternoon is closing arguments. So yeah, that's our schedule. About midweek, we should be getting some instructions to the jury. Thomas says, I have received messages from the dad. He and his wife have hugged, cried, and smiled. They're blown away by the kindness of this group. Thomas, thank you for forwarding that information. And all of you guys, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Charlie Peterson, you are awesome. Samantha Terry, as are you. Thanks, Koski. Thanks for being here. It's a fun place to be. I love that I get to spend my days with you guys. It's amazing. Lindsay Hendricks says, Groovy, confirms all my suspicions on witnesses. Thank you for being attentive to my questions just now. And shout out to the chat and all that donated. That gives me the absolute chills. That's awesome. Yes, Weather Watch. Thomas is, I can just tell you, you see him in chat, and he's a good guy. Thomas is an amazing person. We spend a lot of time talking, getting ready for the podcast and everything like that. And Thomas is just an awesome guy. He's very authentic through and through. So props to him. By the way, we need to sort of clarify something. This week we're going to try the podcast an hour sooner, so it's going to be 8 p.m. on Friday instead of 9 p.m. That might help just a few of you. We do see a couple of you guys over across the pond, over there in the UK area that are trying to watch in the middle of the night, and we feel awful about that. We're going to try to go just an hour earlier, see if that helps just a tiny bit, and maybe that will help some other people as well. So we'll try that other schedule. Let's see. Don't think we didn't do anything. It's all Weather Watch's fault, says Thal. Everything is Weather Watch's fault, including the bad weather. Hopefully it looks like everyone is safe so far from the stuff that moved through today. And that's fantastic. Okay, so we, with Nicole being tied up on her computer, I don't think we're going to be able to get her in today to talk about Fifth Amendment stuff. So we'll probably have to wait for another time. Hopefully her computer gets the medical help it needs to return to working order, and then we can bring her online without her being on hold with tech support. Any other questions? Abby, you did fantastic. Thank you. Wonderful mod, as always. Abby's been here since the very start of everything in the UK. Thank you so much for being here, Abby. Wonderful mod. You set a great tone here. Bars and tone, thank you. I've actually turned it off, so we're not going to get that. Let's see if we have anything else. Alex's brother did not need to visit with him. He was in the courtroom listening to all the info before his testimony. Yeah, Jimmy, somebody mentioned this already. This is why that normally witnesses are sequestered. They don't get to hear other testimony, because now everything he said matches perfectly with the story, and now we have doubt. He's like, would he have testified the same way had he not been here and heard all the other witnesses testify? When will they go to Moselle? I'm guessing Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon, probably. Could be Thursday morning, but we'll see. You guys with the gift memberships are just awesome. They are. Let's see. Making sure I answer all the questions. It's the least I can do for the wonderful channel. Charlie, you are amazing. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you holding your own sometimes, because sometimes your opinion is not the popular one, but it's well thought out, and the way you present it is really good. So thank you for being here. I love that. It adds quite a bit to this group. Okay. What if the shooter, who's in it? I missed it. What if the shooter, man, where'd it go? Somebody had, oh, here it is. Natural Empress says, what if the shooter shows up at the snow? Yeah, that's, I don't think that's going to be a concern. The property, it's sold. I mean, the deal should be going through right now, so it's interesting. I wonder who owns it still. And if it did change hands, do they just get a court order to show up, or do they have to participate? Charlie just did it again. He just gave another gift membership, and KX Star just received the membership. Thank you, Charlie, and congratulations, KX. Lil Miss has some puppy problems, behavior problems, needs to get straightened out. I missed hearing when the jury will go on the field trip to see the crime scene. Thank you. Yes, I'm thinking Wednesday, possibly Thursday morning, but Wednesday afternoon. Remember the Monte people, recovery addict. Everything good and bad is Weather Watch's fault. That's our mantra. Agnes Sky, I heard on Law and Crime Network the jury trip will be on Thursday. It's 40-minute drive each way, 3 hours planned at the Moselle. So that's half a day. That would be Thursday morning then, possibly. So we'll probably know either tomorrow or Wednesday. The judge will probably say in open court a little bit what the schedule is. Wednesday, at least, if we're... I wonder if the judge goes. Is the judge going to go there as well? He's like, well, I want to check it out as well. But he'll give us an update. We'll know exactly when it's going to happen. Speedy recovery on your back. I'm feeling good already. And I just feel better knowing that we've found the sewer line. We don't have to dig anymore. Let's see. Did anything from today change your mind? Says Hannah. No, I did feel that the John Marvin's testimony The emotion he showed seemed very genuine. The testimony he showed, for the most part, I think was felt very authentic. There was a brief moment towards the end where he seemed guarded a little bit, and I wish I had written down notes exactly what it was talking about that, but that still wasn't. It seemed very, very believable stuff. Earlier the better. If you can't like the stream, at least dislike it. It might help the algorithm even more. Rando, I'd go ahead and say, if you really don't like this stream, I'd dislike it twice. Just click that button 2 times. Really show YouTube how you feel about this. Dean Wall, I think it was $1,460 was raised today from this group. Just awesome. Okay. Did the defense say Alex Murdaugh's shirt had blood on it or not? Deanna, yes. This thank you for bringing this up. First of all, yes, they did. The question was raised in such a way that didn't Sled tell you that he had blood all over his shirt and he'd wiped his face with the shirt and that's how they knew he was at the scene. And he said yes, that's what they said. And so in a way, the defense was bringing in evidence, or testimony that makes it sound like Alex Murdaugh had a bloody shirt. Now, we have not heard about a bloody shirt in trial. We've heard about a shirt that was not bloody, but it seems weird that he would leave it right at that point saying, yep, that's what they said. And that's how they knew he was there. Well, we know he was there from the video, but it seems weird to just leave it like that and not have that follow-up question, and when did you learn there wasn't any blood on the shirt? Something like that that would leave that lasting impression in the jurors' minds not being a bloody shirt. So, not sure. One more for good measure. Thank you, Charlie. They said John Marvin oversees the property. Hope they have lunch there. They have a little picnic out there at Moselle, just on the farm. Maybe do a little hog hunting, before they head back to the courthouse. I'll just grab one of the guns from the gun room. Is Alex going to go on the field trip? No, I don't think he's allowed to. Just like DB wasn't allowed to go see his car. The judge has said the jury will go and the lawyers will go. I'm not sure if the judge will go. Obviously, there will be bailiffs there. We're going to have quite a good bit of security. So we'll see. Let's see. We might find hidden clothes. We can go looking in the bushes. Or the guns, find the guns. It's a chicken. I wonder if there are any birds or anything, if it's like vacant or if there's still animals and things around there. Obviously, the dogs have all been parted out to different people. It would be such an eerie scene, yeah. And they have no one to talk to. They're going to get there, and there's not going to be like a tour guide saying, on your left, we have the dog kennel, and here's this, they get to walk up and they get to look at it and observe. They're going to be given instructions, stand here, observe, don't touch anything. Okay. And honestly, what they're going to do is they're going to go up there and they're going to stand there outside the kennel and look at that dog door, and they're going to see the spots where the bullet is lodged in the door jamb. That the defense witness said, we found this, even though the sled guys didn't find it. We found these defects. They're going to be like, yep, they told the truth. They told the truth. So I think it's a brilliant move on the side of the defense to do this. I think the state would get a little traction if they said at least DB was. Yes, you're right, Charlie. DB was allowed to go. Did he end up going? I don't remember if he did. There was some back and forth on that one, some drama. So maybe Alex allowed to go as well. That'd be bizarre. Maybe at different times. I don't know how this goes. Poot will be giving the tour. No one's allowed to speak. I mean, he can't go down there and start saying, now, if you'll notice, I want you to, everyone look over here, right here. This is what I was talking about. They can't do that. They just get to go down and be like, It's like a silent tour. It's like walking through a museum. Everyone zip your lips and then just observe what you observe, and then we're going to hop in the bus for another hour back to the courthouse without talking. Douglas, I still want that clip, but I understand why I don't. Which clip was it? The I doubt it one? Oh, it's a chicken? Yeah. That one I have a hard time with. It's just so close to the time of death. Tam Jules, thank you for becoming an addict, otherwise known as subscribing to the channel. Welcome. Once you're here, you can't leave, though. We adopt you and keep you as our own. What I felt when seeing footage of Scene is that strangers could easily get to kennels. There's nothing blocking them. There's no like gates or anything to go through. The court will go, so that would include him. Yeah, he is the court. So I wonder if he's going to wear his robe, or if he's got like, this is my field trip outfit, shorts and a t-shirt, maybe one of those little visor hats like the dealers wear in the casinos or something like that. Throw a little backpack on, sandwiches, some chips. DB was forced to go. Thanks for the reminder. That case, I've just put it out of my mind. It was so bizarre. Defense just rested. Is it time for the state's redirect? Yes, that'll start tomorrow, Debbie. We all know the chicken did it. The property's changed, so what's the point? It's the things that haven't changed, Hannah, are the locations of the buildings at play. And I guess you can look at the doorway and the size of the feed room and the locations and where things are at. That part's still the same. Obviously, the trees are all different. The foliage is different. I'm sure what crops are in the ground are different, things like that. But do you, recovery addict, or anyone in chat, do you think a tour of the scene will be helpful to the jurors or not? Michelle, I really think that these jurors were not very excited about having a 3-week trial. I think they would love to have maybe a 1-week trial. Nobody signs up for jury duty and is just like, yeah, make it to last forever. $20 a day. That's what I'm working for. The fact that this has dragged on, and yet now there's another thing that's going to go on and on. I think they're going to be frustrated. I think they're going to go in. They're going to look around. They're going to go out. It's going to be all business. And then they're going to be ready to deliberate as soon as the judge gives them the charge. Lindsay, since Newman said that the visit to Moselle would be, let's see, since Newman said the visit to Moselle would be around closing/reply, it's going to be after the rebuttal. Maybe it's after closing statements. The jury could talk to one another since it's technically deliberations. That's an interesting idea, but they have to deliberate without other people. They couldn't deliberate with the lawyers there, and the lawyers are going to be there, and the judge should not be in their deliberations either. That's their courtroom. Once they go into deliberations, that's their little room that they should not be interrupted. If Alex went, he would use body language to communicate. If Alex went and the jury was there at the same time, you can 100% bet that it would be extremely emotional for him. And it should be, regardless of whether or not he committed the murder. Returning to the scene, that's probably going to be very emotional. He hasn't stayed another night there, so I don't think he's been back much. What do you think, you guys? What do you think, guys? What do you guys think? I'll get this right, Denise. I'll spit it out. After today, did defense make huge points? They sort of hammered on some of the same points they hit before that we've heard from other witnesses, like that we heard from Buster specifically, about the parking, about where cars were parked at his dad's house and things like that. Distances. It seems like it was sort of like reinforcing prior testimony as opposed to new stuff. We did hear a little bit new. What was new that came in from John Marvin? I didn't know it was, for some reason, I didn't think it was Buster's phone that had done the Find My Phone feature to find Maggie's phone. I thought it was Paul Marvin's for some reason. So it was, we heard little bits like that, little bits of additional information. Also the fact that Sled said, no, we're not interested in you telling us where her phone is. We'll find it ourselves. That was new. I hadn't heard that before. It was interesting because we actually saw pictures early on in this trial. We saw pictures of, I believe it was Sergeant Hightower, talking to John Marvin in that very moment. I mean, there's a picture out there of that very incident where he's saying, "I've got the phone. Here it is," and then you got the pictures of them walking towards it. So we saw that happen, and that lines up with obviously the photographic record. So that was neat to see that match. I don't know the next trial we're streaming. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. We're gonna find one. It has to be available on streaming. I don't yet have all the equipment to stream everything myself. So where were the guns kept, Suzanne? Who had guns? Ola? whoever did this used the family's guns. I believe they used Paul's guns. I think that's what happened. The 2 guns he normally kept with him and that we've heard in testimony over and over that he always had with him working around the farm, those were, I believe, the 2 guns he had that were used. Does Poot really have to be quiet? Would love to see him in contempt. Yes, I think he has to be quiet. And the other attorneys will be there to make sure nothing untoward happens. I think it would be helpful when they look at the pictures, paints a clearer picture. Brett says, Recover Addict, why rifle against car if danger existed? Should have been blood on knees, hands, shoes if he touched the bodies. Brett, that's one of the things the state's pointed out over and over, is that he looked squeaky clean. Squeaky clean, almost like fresh from the shower and new clothes clean when the police showed up. And we've heard now, depending on the testimony you've heard, whether it's the original story or the new story that Alex told on the stand, that there may have been multiple times that he went to each body. And that just to me seems like there's more reason not to, to question why there isn't blood on the shoes, on the hands, on the clothes, somewhere. The rifle against his car, I believe he only put the rifle there when the police arrived. I believe and it was actually a shotgun. I believe he had it on him before the police arrived. We didn't see that video because obviously he didn't film himself. Apparently Paul Murdaugh left the guns all over. Yes, Tam Jewell says he killed them before he went to his mom's, stashed the evidence there, and then got rid of it at a later time. The state's basically hinted at that, although we don't know. All we can do is ask them, what did you in that minute where you sat there in your mom's driveway in the tree line? What were you doing right then? He says, my phone had fallen down in the console and I was digging it out. Does the jury go home at the end of the day, or do they stay somewhere? Do they also have access to media, TV, phone? Dutch Girl, great question. They actually go home. They have not been sequestered. I do expect that once deliberations begin, once they enter that room and they can start talking, that they will be sequestered. That probably is going to happen. They should not. They've been told not to watch media, TV, or phone. They have media, TV, and phone. They've been told not to watch anything about the case on the TV or phone or anything like that. 80s man, nobody can pronounce my name, sir. Elizabeth Blackow. I don't know how either. I get the first part. Elizabeth. Even JM said he looked like he'd had a shower. Yes, that was neat. I see hung jury, says Mutt. Judge Doro did go with the jury. Okay, so Newman will be there as well. He's going to check it out. You never know. He might be the one buying the property. You never know. It's like this just became available. Good evening, everyone. Take care, especially children require food. Who knew? See you everyone tomorrow. Samantha Terry, thank you so much. Appreciate the work you do as a mod. It would not be the same here without you. He pulled up and called in his car. If you listen to the audio on 911 call, there's an echo from being in the car. Tam Jules, yes, the 17 seconds issue for me, that seemed big. The way Alex took the stand and explained it, he did it in a way that sort of muted my issue with that, where he said, I don't know how it happened. I know I jumped out of the car, then I jumped back in, called 911, and maybe then I went to the bodies type thing. His whole I can't remember means that maybe he misremembered the first time. So just goes to the jury to determine the weight of that evidence. If he bent over to his wife and stuff, he would have had something on him. He took a shower, it sounds like to me. Denise, I agree. He did not show any fear of imminent danger, and that gives me pause because I would be sure to be scared to death the perpetrator would be there to get me too. Yep. Raleigh Creative Travel says, hey, from South Carolina, just down the road from Waterboro. Is it Raleigh or Raleigh? Creative Travel. Good to have you here. Welcome. Hope you can enjoy the rest of the trial here with us. Debbie says, if it was me, I would have been a bloody mess trying to hold my loved ones. The way the state presented the shooter, specifically with Paul, I didn't have as much a problem with how they presented with the shots coming from the same direction on Abby. That's more logical, but with Paul, it does not seem logical at all. How you can have somebody who's standing, and arguably standing because of where the blood spatter and everything went, with his head about a foot off the ground, and over his chest too, because it went through and out like this. So I mean the angle to get that, and then have the matter go where it did. It seemed like a weird story. It just didn't seem like the evidence is going to back that up. Good night, Ola. Thank you. Queen Net says, I believe the jury's going to the kennels makes it worse for Alex because Alex was at the kennels when they were murdered. How did the other, this is Denise, how did the other who did this to his family, and why was he left alive then? Seems like common sense. Off topic, maybe. See if Mrs. R.A. and the little R.A.s have a project to find our history of your family home and see how far back they can go. We actually, Sharon, we actually had a chest in the house upstairs that had quite a few records, and we actually have a history book for our city, for our town, that has records of, we know who built the house, who the families were. Different streets in the area are named after family members of this family that lived in this house originally. It was originally a doctor's house, and in the master bedroom of this house, it used to be the patient's room, and so we still have this old-fashioned sink on the wall where the doctor would wash his hands after seeing a patient in the patient's room. So we still have that there. We have not removed it, but yeah, there's a lot of history here for sure. Why lie that you were there unless you had something to do with it? Time to brave the delusion and get connect stuffings. If it's a hung jury, he'll be tried again, or will the state just let him off? Hung jury, he'd probably be tried again. I don't think the state's going to let him off. I'm in California. The criminal trial I recently sat as a juror. The judge gave us a notebook that said no notes are required. She called it good, solid judgment, jury of the peers. Jay Hughes, that's awesome. I like the ability for jurors to keep notes. The most telling part, says Tam Jules, is that he was at the kennels without his phone, and he always has his phone. The part for me, Tam Jules, about that is if you believe everything Alex was telling us about that night, the fact that he did not want to go to the kennels because he was hot. He had been outside and it was hot already. He'd been out with Paul all day. He had to come in and take a shower. He didn't want to get out and get sweaty again. And then his wife says, well, I'm going to go down to the kennels. And he's like, well, go ahead. You and Paul go down to the kennels. I'm not going out there. It's too hot. She leaves. Paul leaves and she leaves. They go down to the kennels. And then briefly, a couple minutes later maybe, he changes his mind and says, yeah, I probably should go down with my wife. Okay? It's hot still. He still doesn't want to get sweaty. So what does he do? Does he jump in his car that has air conditioning that he can just hit the button and stay cool and fresh all the way down? No. He hops in the golf cart and makes the trip. It takes twice as long in the golf cart to drive down there. 2 minutes down. He gets there. He has the brief encounter with Bubba and the chicken. Probably says a couple things to his wife, then hops on the golf cart and immediately drives back up. It seems like if he felt that my wife's right, I should go with her. Okay, if he had a change of heart about spending time with his wife that evening down at the kennels, it probably would have been longer than just a couple minutes. And that for me just doesn't make sense that he would say, yeah, I will go down. Look, I'm here, and then leave again. And he took the golf cart to do it. So yeah, the phone, I'm okay with people. I occasionally leave my phone. I always have my phone, but occasionally I give it to Mrs. R.A. and occasionally, I'll leave it in the car. I have been known to go into the store when I had my phone with me on as a GPS in the car, and I left it in the dash or something like that. I was thinking about how Alex touched Papa's phone. He was thinking of taking that one too and chucking it until he figured it out, as he said in the police car. Yeah, I wish he had finished what he was saying right then in that interview. He was going to fiddle it out, and then he figured it out and then put it down. I honestly think the phone did not fall out of his pocket. I believe the phone probably fell on the floor in the feed room, and that maybe Alex grabbed it and was going to put it back in Paul's pocket, and then it rang, and it was Paul's friend calling him back, trying to see, or texting him back, and then he just set it on Paul and just left it. Let's see. He did it with 2 guns to make it look like it was 2 shooters and throw the scent off himself, and he lied about being there. Posted it in yellow a minute ago. Let's see. Oh, I posted it. Would love to see the history of your home. History of old homes is so fascinating to me. Really, it's just they built it, and then from then on, it's been a constant battle with termites. So, my home is, I think we're only about, we're between 40 and 60 feet above sea level. We're about an hour and a half from the ocean. And it's never flooded. We're on like a little rise, but the yard does flood. But the house itself doesn't flood. Hung jury, prosecutors decide if retry, I believe. I think they would decide to retry. KX Star says, I missed who did that. I believe that was Charlie. I believe Charlie was the one who gave that one to you, KX Star. Let's see. After deliberation/judgment, I didn't sleep for a week, wondering if I made the right judgment to be continued. The same guy is up for more charges of the same sorts. Oh, my goodness. So that, Jay Hughes, does that make you feel better, knowing that he's been charged with more things that, I'm not sure if you convicted him the first time or now you questioning your judgment if you did not vote to convict the first time and now he's up for more. Grumpy Cat, you're here 3 hours late. At least you're here. Wanted to see what Roro knew. That's why he was calling. Somebody said something about spicy maple bourbon pickles. And I'm sure it was all good, whatever it was, but it missed. I flew off the screen. Okay. I would need to take notes. My memory is very bad. I would have to watch all the testimony again. Suzanne says, yes, I think that Alex misspoke and corrected himself when he said that Maggie told him to leave. I think that went down to confront Maggie about the Gucci purchase and lost it. It doesn't seem like the money, the purse would be enough reason in my head for him to get there. It's easier for me to imagine that he wanted to take pills as soon as they were gone, and he went to get the pills and they were missing. And then the paranoia set in or something like that, because he says he gets paranoia about not having pills. That seems more logical to me, that he went down to find out where the pills were, and hey, who took my pills type thing, and if somebody said, I threw them away or I got rid of them or something, and he snapped. I don't get the movie reference there, Richard. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Save your SMB pickle juice, make your own. But doesn't it get diluted over time? I mean, will the jury be sequestered? I believe so, Katerina. I think they will. Doesn't jive for me at all. That he would go down to the kennels for that short of time and just get out of there. Yeah, after seconds, minutes, at most. And supposedly didn't even mention going to his mother's. Wonder if Paul had pills in his pocket. Oh, man, Janice. Who uses names like that? So strange. She called his family by those names. It seems like the whole family, that's something that has seemed consistent, is the whole family sort of had nicknames and sort of pet names for people that Grandpa was handsome and, Pawpaw and Buster, and they've just, everyone's got a nickname. And that sounds like that's more family culture. Okay. Alex figured out that he did not know the passcode. I think it's more of a problem that somebody else was calling, and that I think that's what scared him off the phone. Got to bounce. Thank you very much for such terrific coverage. Thank you, Janice. Thank you for being here. I missed the Oreo pickle taste. How was it? Grumpy Cat. Yeah, go ahead and try it. I give it a solid 0 now. I mean, I said 2 and 4 out of 10. I've changed my mind. And maybe this is too much information, but apparently the combination of Oreo and pickle in your stomach, it does something. It does something. Think, what's a good example? Mentos and Coke. I think that would be a good example. It just did not go well. Not at all. Especially washing it down with milk probably added to that problem. It's the architect who designed the house in the movie Mouse Hunt. It was pretty funny and family friendly. My house does have sort of like a there was like an architect by the name of like Wright or something that was very popular in this time, and I have several, like I've got stained glass windows and things that are of that same design, that wheat stained glass design, not made by him, but just copying it. He said he had a pocket full of pills during the first interview. Yes, he did. So he found them somewhere. What was Buster's alibi? He was in Colombia, Debbie. He was miles and miles away with his girlfriend. Yes, Denise, 100%. Oreo and pickle is not recommend. Let's not forget that Recovery Addicts voluntarily ate 3 of them. I did. I wanted to give it a fair shake, Weather Watch. It was, had I just taken a nibble, that wouldn't have been fair. Let's see, I think he picked up the phone when it rang, then realized what he had done, so he wiped the phone down and put it down. Frank Lloyd Wright, that's the guy, Carol Martin. Thank you. I knew somebody would come up with that. Yes, I think he was a pretty famous architect back in the day. Designed some amazing buildings on sort of like sort of very unique style as well. I don't know when those windows were put in, like the stained glass was put into my house, so it might have been, I don't know when Frank Lloyd Wright was alive, but I've been told that's what the style is. I think I was the one that insisted Recovery Addict had to eat at least 3. Thanks, DMB. I will remember that. Yes, KQD, thank you very much. Pampered Glamper says, maybe the phone fell out while he was digging in Paul's pocket for his pills. Alex Light on the stand said Maggie didn't use hose. Said Paul and Dog Cash were loose. Video with 3 voices shows Dog and Paul inside kennel and can hear hose being used. Yes. He is a legend. It's valuable, but mine was a copy. My stained glass window, it has gaps in it. You can see air. There's airflow that runs through my stained glass window. No, we're just starting a rumor, Jay Hughes. I have a home that has some features that were similar to his design, that followed some of his designs. I ate chili at Waffle House. Let's say it was like giving birth to a volcano on exit. I know this Oreo stomach issues. 80s Music Man. Mine was not that bad. Mine, I had the world's largest burp. And by that, I mean I probably could have sung the whole alphabet during this burp. It was remarkable, but not in a good way. And then you also have just a hint of flavor with it, just reminded me of what I had eaten. Sherry McDonald says, I had a nickname, but only Mom used it. What I would just give to my mom, call me that again, as my mom passed away 23 years ago. Oh, Sharon, that's sad and beautiful at the same time. It sounds like this family had nicknames as well, and that's cool. My family didn't really do the nicknames very much. I mean, unless I guess a couple siblings sort of chose the variations of their name they'd like to be called, but it wasn't really a lot of nicknames. He died in 1959. Okay, so he's, the contemporary for the time period. That's right. Remember the influence I have with the chat. Yes, you do. Tam Jewel says, okay, here's my theory. I watched the Netflix doc on this, and not a lot of the trial, but I did with a screenshot with a composite picture and the one kid in the boat case, Anthony Cook, and the nose turns up in the pic too. So you're talking about the sketch artist from the side of the road thing? Who is the screenshot in the composite? That's the only composite I can think of, is the side of the road, which I believe Alex has come out and said he lied about. So what happened today? Any bombshells? No, Jojo Peter, not really. Other than that, the jury's going to go to Moselle. That was new. I didn't think that would happen at all. Frank Lloyd Wright is my favorite. I'm from Illinois. I'll have to take a picture of the stained glass window and share it with you guys. Let's see, I was listed in the court documents that Paul's pocket had elastic at the top. I thought we heard that there was blood determined to be inside the pocket as well. What kind of trouble are you and Weather Watch going to be doing next Friday? More of the same, Debbie. More of the same. It'll be a lot of fun, lighthearted, some comedy. If you guys come across a news story that you think would fit perfectly in our podcast, please send it to the burner phone, And if it's a good one, if it fits and it's selected, we'd definitely like to give you credit for bringing it to our attention. So please do that. Make sure you submit your name. If you need the burner phone number, just type !burner in chat at any time and it will pop up there. Okay. I've been at a Frank Lloyd Wright home, Falling Water near Pittsburgh. He built for the Pittsburgh Tycoon. Can't remember his name. He built it with a stream running through the home. Yeah, the guy was just ahead of his time as far as designs went. Just really cool stuff. I like looking at those homes too. I know the case theory, but I think it was to create a suspect and get back at the guy who called his kid names and costing him money. This was payback and a setup at the same time framing Anthony. Okay, Tam Jules, that makes more sense, what you explained previously then. Yeah, so trying to point the finger at somebody who was, causing him financial trouble with the case. Let's see. Our family has many nicknames. It's a cultural thing. Don't call anyone Bo Whoop. How do you come with Bo Whoop for a gun? That's funny. It must have been a funny story behind that. Okay. He built many homes on Lake Michigan. Former boss owned one. That would be cool to see. The Doug faction is strong in this chat. Hey, Douglas. Doug's my man in that courtroom. After sitting through the Border Patrol, who was that? Who was Border Patrol? Can never remember the names. Who was our Border Patrol defendant who killed those women? After sitting through that trial and having all the HDMI cables go missing and all the technical glitches, I mean the testimony went forever. The videos, a 12-disc box set of testimony where nothing happens for 2 discs. I can really appreciate Doug and his value in the courtroom as somebody who can just keep things going and make sure things are connected the way they should be. Let's see. Was Paul using pills too? The swelling can come from those pills. I don't think we've had any testimony about that. We do know he liked to drink a little, but I don't know about his drug use or if there was any. Good night, Bella. We'll see. I'm actually wrapping up. Sorry to drag things out here. I'm just trying to answer all the questions first. Next Friday, we'll celebrate the verdict. I don't know when it's going to be. It could be really quick. It could be long. Lady Writer missed so much today. Pesky job, but I've tried to listen as much as possible. Wonderful. Fun fact, North Carolina is one of the few states that has no buildings by Frank Lloyd Wright. Yes, mine is not by him. Mine is not by him. It is a copy, a look-alike. At least the window is, the stained glass window. Speaking of houses, I love the movie The Lake House. I'd just like to have a lake house. It was after a Western movie. One character named his gun Bo Whoop. Okay, so we must have liked the movie then. Okay. All right, I'm all caught up. Border Patrol. Juan David Ortiz. Thank you, Grumpy Cat. Oh, my goodness. Why can I not remember Ortiz? I could remember the tire, but I could not remember Ortiz for some reason. Will the jury work weekends? No, I do not believe they will. They might work late into the evening, but not weekends. Let's see. Woodwork was unequaled. We have beautiful stained glass windows in most of our churches over the pond. That's awesome. Uncle John needed not to support Alec. He needed to fight for justice for Paul. I believe Uncle John thinks that it's the same thing. I honestly believe John Marvin does not think Paul Murdaugh is the killer. Roll the tire in, please. Juan Colby, we'll see you. Thanks for being here, Colby. Let's wrap up. Look at that. I had the music ready to go, just like that. First try. Didn't have to do anything. You guys are amazing. It has been a fun day, even though it's been a little bit slow on the testimony. We've got through it. We're making progress. We're nearing the end of the trial. There will be an end. There will be an end for sure. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the generous super chats that have come in, for all the gift memberships that have come in. You guys are absolutely amazing. It's been fun to spend this day with you as well. Tonight, when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live tomorrow morning. It'll be 9 a.m. is our start time tomorrow morning. Thank you, Carol. Thank you to all those who donated to help the Hassan family down in Texas. It sounds like Weather Watch has been in contact with them, and it's very much appreciated. You guys have definitely made a big impact in somebody's day. And the fact that it was for a perfect stranger, It's just amazing. You guys, you're incredibly generous. It's not lost on us. You are the best community on the internet, and thank you for being here to watch True Crime. Thank you all. We'll see you in the morning. Have a good day.